That's not what I meant. I think it's somebody's microphone. That's not what I meant. It is. We're looping. I think.
I think that was on my end. Sorry.
Who
made that?
My son did.
That's pretty funny.
He heard me describing the idea of it all, and he's just like, so this is must. So he says to me, he says, "Dad, this is what Cyclops thought was going to happen."
Yeah, that's fair.
So I was like, okay. Well, it's Wednesday. Welcome to Monitor Duty, where we are here to talk about, man, Avengers versus X-Men. Wow. Yeah. That was the great thing about this whole ordeal, I think, was Cartoonicus asked the question. I mean, not Cartoonicus. Twitless asked the question: is this the last time Marvel was any good? And I had always answered, well, no, because Civil War had already happened and it was terrible. And everything after that's been the fruit of Civil War, so it can't be any good. And so he's like, no, Reese, listen, Reese. I want you to read Avengers.
I think that still holds true.
I think I stand by my point, and I have a panel to prove it. I have one page that proves my entire thesis.
Well, I think your thesis is actually different than what he's describing.
That's
potentially.
True. That's true. Yeah. We may be talking at cross purposes yet again, like we were with the I'm going to do it, I'm going to bring it up, the Kingdom Come debate.
Oh my gosh!
Just you made a really like the second or third time we talked about it. You made a really good point that Kingdom Come isn't just what Kingdom Come did; it's what Kingdom Come is itself. And if you look at Kingdom Come for what it is, can you say it's terrible? And I have to say, because I can't say it's terrible in and of itself. If you take it in it as the unimaginary story, right, as the thing, then that's the difference. So, but yeah. So that's the story.
So you guys have to understand that it was your battle in that stream over Kingdom Come that made me realize I do not want to sit between another, hour-long fight between you guys over this. And then everything changed when Hutch asked 8 million questions in the chat, and I realized this is going to be an awesome stream.
Because again, this is like Hutch's third Marvel comic.
Yeah, and this is one of the most lore-loaded comics that you could just drop somebody into.
Yeah, it's so thick, and I read a lot of Marvel comics, and I was still just like, who's the doctor with the gun that shoots syringes, and why do we care?
Dr. Nemesis, yeah.
There's a guy that shows up for some reason.
You don't even need to know any of that. That's the funny thing, is the books works fine if you don't know any of this stuff. Because when I went into this, so one of the reasons I still have nostalgia goggles for this. This is one of the first comics I collected in the store, and I collected not just it. I collected a lot, not all, but I collected a bunch of the tie-in books. And so I was picking stuff up as I went. I'm like, who the heck? And it's funny because you see her in one panel, but he's actually in one of the tie-in books. But I think her name is Hephaizeba. She's literally just a furry, and she's a member of the X-Men. I had no clue who she was. I was like, who the heck is the furry chick? She's just a cat girl. There's just the X-Men have a cat girl. it's great.
Because the X-Men have everything.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a cat girl, and I was like, who the heck is this? There's like I said, at least a dozen characters. I had to just go and who the hell are all these people? So it's very common. But let me set this, if you don't mind, let me set the scene a little bit here, and a little bit of the thesis that I had, and hopefully that this will rehabilitate some of what this book is, and I do have one thing I want to share when I get to a certain point. Like I said, I have one page I'd like to share that I think helps me make my my thesis here. So part of my thesis is the fact that this is 2012 when this comes out. Marvel is purchased by Disney in 2009, and which is, I believe, the year that Sana Amanat comes to work for them.
Wait a minute. The original Iron Man movie took
Oh.
place or came out in 2008.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The original Iron Man movie came
Yeah,
out
yeah,
in
exactly. Yeah,
2008.
yeah. So,
Iron Man precedes the
Correct,
purchase
correct.
by Disney.
Yeah,
Really?
but
That was
just by
actually
like,
the
yeah,
success
only
of Iron
just.
Man was one of those things that was one of the leverage points for the
Right.
saleability of the thing.
So
But then,
what
wait a
we're
minute, who did that movie then, and how did they get their hands on Iron Man?
No,
Marvel
it was still
Studio. It was still
Disney.
Marvel. Yeah. Marvel did it, the first Iron Man, and then they got purchased by Marvel Disney right afterwards.
How
It's
they get the money?
it's also really crazy too, because like to actually answer that question accurately, Cartoonicus, it would take a show about the collapse of Marvel from the time they kicked Shooter out up until through their bankruptcy and everything else.
The Toy Biz stuff and everything. Yeah.
I will tell you.
The splitting of all the rights and everything. We should make that a show sometime.
That'd be great. But here's part of the thing with that.
Oh my gosh.
With that, I actually watched a really good movie that broke it down. I mean, not movie, a video today that broke it down. Wes over at Thinking Critical, who is either, I got to tell you that that guy either knocks his commentary completely out of the park for accuracy and basedness, or it's utter slop. There is no middle ground with that man. I don't know how it works, but I caught a video of his today where he was talking about a blog where Jim Shooter had written a proposal for a book about comics that never got published, and it's been posthumously published on his blog, and it is so. I mean, like the Wes goes through the article talking about it, and he actually does a great like
I was supposed
digest
to see
story about this very topic, about that whole thing. So rather than try to explain it, I'll actually try to send you the link later. So
I was supposed to see Jim in Heroes Con. He died that weekend.
Yeah, that was rough.
So we missed it. That was such a shame. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that what the picture I'm trying to paint here is that Disney had just purchased Marvel a couple of years prior. But they had not done, and right after Avengers versus X-Men, and my theory, I've not done enough digging to like confirm this, but the theory I have is that right after Avengers versus X-Men is when Disney takes over. And by that, what I mean is that my whole pitch here for Avengers vs. X-Men is that Avengers vs. X-Men is the last comic for a very long time that feels like a Marvel entertainment product, whereas after this, they become a Disney entertainment company. And when you see when they literally say, you can go on Wikipedia, look it up, when they bring in Sana Amanat in particular, it's like, she says, I was brought in because I had no connection to Marvel, and I was brought in to make Marvel a not a boys brand, but a brand for everyone. And this is where I'm going to share this page. And I'm just going to say, in one page, I can demonstrate to you why my thesis for what I'm saying about this is the last time Marvel was any good, in air quotes, as it were. This comes from one of the tie-in books. This is the AVX to the Fight book, and if you want to share what I've got.
There we go.
So this is here we go. This is supposed to be this is the Fight book, and we have Hawkeye imagining all of the all these ladies in little cat fight moments. At the very end of it, he gets.
I was gonna say it doesn't look like it's drawn by Greg Land.
No, it's not. This one was let's see here, Arthur Adams, Art Adams. And at the very end of it, it says the winner, you. Because you got to see all the cheesecake. This is the last time, for a very long time. I think Marvel did recently put out a swimsuit comic recently again, but for years, this was the last time you got to see this kind of content that's very clearly knows who the audience is. The young horny boys. And by the way, Psylocke just had her own series. That's the last time you get to see Psylocke designed like this. It's the last time you get to see Miss Marvel designed the way she is. The day after Avengers vs. X-Men, they give her the lesbian haircut and the motorcycle gear. Like it's literally like it's the day after this comic. You can clearly see that there is an era changes. So one of the things that that really strikes me on reread, again, is how, regardless of the nitpicks or the things that we can say we like or dislike about this is clearly a book that knows who its audience is, and it's writing a comic to its audience. Hey, you like sexy men and women going on adventures and fighting each other. It's the most shonen fight comic that they produced in a hot minute. And then after
That's
this,
an insult to shonen comics.
I disagree. But there's
we'll talk about that later.
But the day after this happens, it's all different. They launch what's called Marvel Now.
Mhm.
They change how they draw the characters. Like you can see, like from Scarlet Witch to Psylocke, they change how they draw the characters. They a couple years after this is when we get Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, the replacement wave of characters who are meant to replace the classic people, and it's like I said, there's a very definite shift, and so I regardless of what our opinions are on this book, it still reflects my thesis of there's something very distinct happening here. I think this is the last time Marvel was Marvel, and after it is Disney Marvel.
Can I kind of point out something that just in the last week there is a very heavily referenced article. I mean, it's been passed around everywhere, and I'm sorry I don't remember the source of it, but it's like the great feminization. It talks about how what we think of as woke is really just more women being put in charge of everything. Like, there's been more and more women, but they finally reached over 50% in charge of this or that or the other thing. It's like in charge of the networks and in charge of, hospitals and in charge of whatever, publishing. And that's the reason white men can't get published, because the publishing world is more than 50% women. And they're like, well, we don't want you guys. We want underrepresented groups. And that's what we've seen everywhere. And
it's not just and
we see it in Marvel and DC. We see the pictures of their staff, and it's all women who are about 25.
Yeah, and I do want to add one thing too. It's not
the milkshake crew. They literally made the meme.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not just white men that can't get published.
Right.
If you're a black man who is not writing about a black woman's struggle, you still can't get published.
True.
Christopher Priest had a hard time getting his books published, even though he's an amazing writer, because he wasn't writing, Black Panther and the Crew, and he wasn't writing, he wrote Vampirella. Everyone was scandalized because it was about a sexually fulfilled woman, which is the whole point of Vampirella, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I like Vampirella is my thing, but I am saying that's there's a certain kind of person that is reading Vampirella and they're looking for this sort of character, right? And Christopher Priest became a scandal for writing Vampirella, and for saying he was trying to write her according to the ethos from which she sprung, right?
And Christopher Priest is black?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it never mattered.
It never mattered. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
work exclusively on black characters. He writes everybody.
Yeah. I didn't know Dwayne McDuffie was black for a long, long time.
Casting, no, that also ties into what I was mentioning, was that not only do we see these characters drawn different, but this is also predates when they decided to inject a ton of queerness into all these books.
Oh, I disagree. This is a very, very gay book.
Oh, so gosh. This is like I said, the day before they decide to take, okay, we're gonna start injecting this character's bisexual and this character's gay and this character's gay. Right. It's like Psylocke was a straight woman in this. It was very clear that it was fine. The heterosexuality was okay, and but like I said, you could just see, again, in my opinion, you can see a before and after, because like I said, right after it is when they do Marvel Now.
So here's
right in the middle of this is when they promote the gay wedding in X-Men
it was
51.
in one of the issues.
So here's my counter proposal.
Okay.
Here's my counter proposal, and I will go ahead and share. Let me make sure I have my screen up for this part. Okay. Yes. Give me just a second because I'm not ready yet.
I have more things to share, but I
no, of course we do. Of course you do.
I just wanted to start off by setting the stage with just that little bit. I have some other things to set the stage with in terms of where the story is.
Yeah.
But
here's
This
my
story has
counter
a
proposal.
lot of baggage.
So here's my counter proposal: that this story, rather than being the last grasp of something, was the first of something. This was an intentional. This was the actually, it was the end of phase one of the destruction of the male, the positive male archetypes within the Marvel universe, right? And point one is Cyclops. Now, in the 90s, a lot of work was done with Cyclops, rehabilitating him from being the guy that had a baby with his dead girlfriend's clone, right? And actually bring him into being a
I hate to tell you
recuperated
this, but do you know whose
positive-
fault that is? You know whose fault all that is? As much as I love Jim
Yeah.
Shooter, that's on him.
Right.
Okay.
And Chris Claremont. Let's not.
That wasn't Chris. It wasn't
I
Chris.
I thought
Chris-
the problem with
Chris was
Cyclops.
forced.
Oh.
Chris was forced by Jim to bring back to write those storylines, and Jim was basically to give credit to Jim. Jim was told by the bean counters that we loved Jean. You're bringing her back. I don't care. And then Jim gave the mandate. So
right, but I mean, but that's all well and good. But what I'm saying is that, like, because they brought Jean back and it wasn't really Jean, fans didn't like it. They brought the real Jean back, but that's not the point I'm getting at. Right? Is like this moral lapse in Cyclops' life, right? That ended up with him having to give up his son because of his own. There were a lot of human foibles that went along with that, right? But what I'm saying is, in that process, you go through him, accepting what he's done, manning up, trying to be a better guy. He meets his son all grown up, marries the girl, goes in the future, raises his son. There's all of this positive dad energy that's coming up, right? With Cyclops, right? And then what do? They bring in Grant Morrison, who loves to break everything, and they start this process of breaking it down. And this is the breaking down of Cyclops, and is the breaking down. Let me scroll my screen down here. So here is Cyclops berating and demeaning and physically assaulting his adopted granddaughter, who is actually the spiritual clone of his dead wife.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, so this is where I have to set a little stage here. There's context to this.
Yes, because Hope was raised by Cable, but as she was sent into the future just like he was, but she is the daughter of some rando chick and the mental power of Jean Grey to create this ideal person, right? So it's the psychic clone of his dead wife.
Oh my gosh!
And he's just.
I think that stuff gets retconned in. I think when she's introduced, they don't establish that
Rachel
she's
Summers
just
is better.
They've
you've
just given me more information than Marvel gave me about who this character is.
Let me. All right, hold on. We're without the minutia. Okay.
I
Lindy,
told
you left the
you.
door open.
That she is the last. She's the first child that's born after M Day, right? And that is, of course, the day
She's the
when
first. She's the first. After,
yes, the first child, the first mutant child born after M Day.
Right.
And that, of course, is when in for whatever reason, Scarlet Witch made the most improbable wish ever for no more mutants, and like all of the mutants just became normies. And they were really sad about it.
They needed to clean. It was like in Crisis on Infinite Earths. All right, so this is where I need to set a couple stages here. Okay, so this book is downstream of a couple of things that I think aren't like a plan to necessarily destroy Cyclops. I think it's incidental because you have and this happened in DC. Like you get to a point in the company, you have too many characters running around, too many storylines, and someone comes in and decides to clean house. So when Marv Wolfman did it, it was Crisis on Infinite Earths, and he genocides not just characters but entire realities to simplify things. People have different mixed opinions on that. I'm sure Hutch has got a load he could give us on what the impact of that was. But that was DC's version of doing what Marvel did a couple of times when their X series of books got I just look up the amount of X comics X-Men comics. They are one of the most prolific franchises that Marvel has. Spider-Man usually has a couple of books, very long running. He's obviously their most popular character, but he doesn't have like 200 spin-off comics. X-Men spins off every 8 seconds. So at a certain
it's like
point,
you could just put X-Men, some color under the rainbow.
right, exactly.
X-Force, X-Squad, X anything, and then
Well, and
X-Men-
also Excalibur, which is my favorite use of the thing, because it's
X-Men Green Skittles. Yeah, you could totally do anything.
Excalibur, which is kind of an X title and kind of not, but it totally is, because it says X in it, even though it's not spelled.
So at a certain point, the powers that be decided we're going to simplify this, and they did a controversial storyline, which was House of M. Wanda, Scarlet Witch, says no more mutants. She normifies a whole bunch of them. But in simplifying that,
and she's not. Remember, they're not dead. They're just like you, and they hate you so much that they're willing to destroy the world because they don't want to be like you. And that's once again, if you said, oh, this before this is after this is where Marvel decided to hate you. No, that's an explicit.
I disagree. I think if you talk to like the deaf community, the camaraderie that they have in certain pockets of disabled communities, for example, this is not something that's unheard of. But anyway, so it's downwind of that. It's downwind of the Utopia Siege storylines, which had pushed Cyclops in particular into more edgy positions that he had to take in order to protect the shrinking, now very much endangered species that they considered themselves to be. And so by the time we hit this storyline, Cyclops is prepped to have this particular story arc. That being said, I think Marvel understands that they understood the risk they were taking, which is why after this they bring back the original 5 X-Men from the past, so that there's now an untainted version of Cyclops along with the one that went on the villain arc.
Those aren't the same people.
I thought that
They're
was
skin suits.
Oh my
made
gosh.
to make Marvel feel good about themselves while
Anyway,
they destroy everything.
The point is that I think this is a harder story to read if you're a big Cyclops fan, but reading this a second time, the character and the decisions I saw him make seemed plausible for someone put into the position that he is in the grand narrative. I could see a guy who'd been through all those traumas becoming hardened, getting power, getting corrupted by it. It wasn't something I could not believe.
Yeah, it is super believable that a person decides to be a villain. That happens every single day. My wife is a big fan of the true crime YouTube genre. I see a lot of people that they're happily married and then they decide to just poison their spouse because the chick next door's got a nice set. That's that happens all the time. It doesn't mean I want my superheroes to act that way.
Oh. Okay. Can we also talk about the Phoenix saga?
There's also a lot of Phoenix stuff going on here.
I'm trying to remember, how long ago did that happen? Was that as far back
83.
as the 80s?
80s.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
It's been on and off because Jean Grey has come back again, died again at least twice.
Oh my.
Because Magneto kills her once when she's Phoenix.
And you also have to remember too that like the 80s were 5 years ago in comics time.
That's true.
That's true. But your audience still, it's like the fact that the Phoenix is coming back is a really big deal in this comic, right?
Yeah.
And
it should be. I mean, like the one of the things, like I don't know, I can't remember if it was established by the time this came out or not, but like the Phoenix in like a cosmic sense was like birthed with the creation of this version of the universe. So it's kind of like the Infinity Stones, in which it's like it's a semi-sentient, naturally occurring force of the universe that exists within the context of this version of the universe.
The interesting thing to me about it is how long ago that was before this story, and yet, without knowing anything pretty much about Marvel at the time that it came out, I knew all about it and was ready to go into it because every time they did anything with X-Men on TV or movies, the Phoenix always came back as the big bad, right? there were like 3 different cartoons plus the movie that everybody hated.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's I mean, that's the sign. The reason they've done that is because that is just evidence of the intellectual and creative bankruptcy of the Marvel properties. Because
Fair enough.
that was
But I think it's
like
interesting how
the
it was almost like those properties were setting us up for this comic, right?
The Phoenix Saga was the high point of Marvel lore, right? That's when especially X-Men lore. That's when everything was. And so like it's everything watersheds off of that moment, and people like half-wits, instead of like just making comics that are good and then occasionally great, they'll make comics that are trash because they're trying to come back to that pinnacle again.
It's hard to be fair. It's hard to, not even Chris Claremont could, I think, escape the gravity of Phoenix, at least in terms of how it impacts certain characters. I think I think you can make a case for that. So like I don't, before I judge too harshly, it's one of those things where it's hard to come back from. You know, it's hard to take. And you can see just in terms of how Jean Grey, who is one of my favorite X-Men, it's hard to do anything with Jean Grey because you're always, it feels inevitable that you're gonna, someone or you have to inevitably circle back to the elephant in the room. She had a whole history before
Is
this.
that why
before the CGX happened, she was just the telekinetic girl that everyone had a crush on, including Professor X. So the redhead next door. After Chris Claremont's apotheosis, because he has a goddess complex, which he very does, very much does. But after he does that, it's very hard to do a story that doesn't at some point circle back to that. So, like I said, the gravity of Phoenix is very significant. We could probably talk a lot about that.
And so what happened was that Jean Grey kind of got what I call the Bucky effect, or Jason Todd, where there are certain characters who, no matter how many times, every time you restart their story, they are basically condemned to hit a certain story point now, right? It's like their very existence says they have to go through this, that, and the other thing. And that's kind of Jean now. It's like she has to become the Phoenix.
Or she has to deal with it or basically go through a story arc where she gets the power or gives it up and goes through that. There's a cycle that she's now, it's very difficult to ignore. And that's very true. But we're here to talk about Avengers versus X-Men. But these are all of the...
I've been on mute all this time. I've been like, why are you guys talking over me all this time? And I look down.
Sorry,
I'm on mute
man.
all this time.
I was reading. I was reading, so I didn't notice you were trying to say anything.
I wanted to just give you a little bit of. I wanted to comment on all of this. I have never read the Phoenix Saga, and like as you point out, it is 20 years, 30 years, 20 years, 30 years before this was published. And you would think that with all the new readers who've come along, I'm sure many of them have sought out the Phoenix Saga, and yet it is just standard. You would think that somewhere in this, there would be like one like young mutant who'd be like, you guys never talk about the Phoenix. Nobody ever wants to talk about it. It's like something you don't talk about. But if it's coming back, I need to know what it is, because I don't know. And then somebody gets to say, okay, here's what it is, and they get to recap this story for the person who doesn't know it and also for the new readers. Right. They never do that. And I do commend Marvel for two things. One, at the beginning of every issue, they had a who are the players with little squares showing their faces and their names. I appreciate that huge. And also there's a quick recap of what happened the previous issue. And it would not just say what the summary is of the previous issue, but it would basically summarize the whole story, but in 3 paragraphs throughout whatever doesn't need to be mentioned, that, they all had a big fight or whatever. But in 3 paragraphs gets across everything you need to know up till now. And I appreciate that even when you're buying this on a monthly, because you can't remember what it did a month ago,
With the amount of characters they're wielding here, like it would be indecipherable if they didn't do that.
Right. You've gotta, like, I've written some. I mean, I don't know how many out there have read Force of Good and Evil, but I have a couple of stories where I've got 20 characters that'll parse through different parts of a story. So I mean, I definitely, I don't know how well I handle that because no one's ever said, "Hey, Reese, you're really good at managing a big cast," or "You're terrible. That's awful. Stop doing that." Nobody said anything to me about it. But I will say that there's probably 45, 50 characters in this.
Mm-hmm. I don't
And
have
not
a
all of
problem
them
with
get a
the
lot of.
number. Oh, I
I'm
don't have
saying
a
not
problem with
all.
the number so much as what I have a problem with is one, they never explain. They assume that everybody's reading Marvel of recent issues, so they never explain what Wanda did, even though her guilt and her evilness is like all over these first few issues. If you don't know what she did, they keep saying, "Oh, what she did was horrible." They never say what she did because they assume that you read that story. I didn't read that
Actually,
story.
you know
I
what's
have no
funny
idea.
though? Because they
What?
do in the very last issue.
Yeah, in the last issue, they do recap it. I noticed that. But I also have no idea who
Right.
Hope is or what she can do. I
Right.
don't know what her powers are. They don't do anything to explain who she is. I had no idea without talking to you guys that she's related to Cyclops, or let alone that she was
Magneto.
born. She was born after the thing where she said no more mutants, and she's the first mutant. And then they took her into the future and raised her to adulthood and brought her back.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, well, if the problem is that the big fiery phoenix is coming to get her, why don't they send her somewhere else in time until until the thing goes away?
Okay, so
But,
let's
go ahead.
I think that's a great question. There are lots of, and this is the thing this is one of the reasons, the things I hated about this is that, like, literally, aside from basic character, I can acknowledge, even though I think it was stupid and clumsy and hackneyed the way they treated Cyclops here and back in Grant Morrison's run, the whole thing was just.
I won't defend Grant Morrison. He
Right.
deliberately I've looked this up. Grant Morrison said he wanted to basically. He's like, I never saw the X-Men as superheroes, so I wanted this comic to not be a superhero comic.
Yeah.
So he completely dissolves them as superheroes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he doesn't. Yeah, anyway, we don't need to get into that right now.
Sure.
But regardless of all of that, about just the nonsense that all of that is, for within the context of this story, separated from this other context, I can say that Cyclops, Breaking Bad, certainly fits within the kind of character that you might see with them, something like that. Okay, but I gotta distract myself for a second because this is a really, really interesting point. Tuner, I had never thought of it like this. Tuner says, Jim Tuner, who is right about everything, says Grant Morrison made the X-Men into the Doom Patrol. That's 100% exactly what he did, and not
That
and
is
not the
something I
classic
have
Doom
never
Patrol.
touched. I'm
But
afraid.
Grant Morrison had he cut his teeth writing the Doom Patrol remake in the 80s.
Yep.
That's why people even care about him, and because he had to. And in fairness, he did some fairly fun, creative things with comics as a genre within that book, conceptually. I'm not going to say it was great, but it's clever. And
He's a clever writer. I don't know if that's a good way of describing him.
Yeah. But he did entirely. Now the funny thing about this, in my little parenthetical, is that the X-Men exist because Marvel was trying to copy the Doom Patrol.
So the Doom Patrol is in many people's eyes in the 60s, the Doom Patrol is the superior comic.
Mhm.
I will say in terms of in some respects that is correct. A few others I would debate that. I think because a lot of people complain about early X-Men, they say, "Oh, it was terrible until Chris took over," and I say, read the first Juggernaut two-parter and tell me that's a bad comic.
No. It was clearly. I would say that the early X-Men comics that they are so derivative of the formula that DC had done with the Doom Patrol, and the Doom Patrol was kind of a runaway for DC at that time.
It's very high quality, like the artwork, the paneling, the layouts. Like there's really good sequential art storytelling in the Doom Patrol.
For sure.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at is that X-Men they were aping Doom Patrol, but they did do their own thing, and so they took a while for them to, how do we adapt this formula into our style, into our thing, and so that's the thing. But yeah, Grant Morrison just like everything that made. I had never thought of it before, but you're 100% right, Jim. Everything that makes the X-Men different from the Doom Patrol was the things that Grant excised from the Doom Patrol. And my buddy I have to talk my buddy Barry Tetz, artist we work with. He and I have gone rounds talking about how much he hates what Grant Morrison did with the book, and I never liked it, but I didn't necessarily hate it. But I would love to have this conversation with Barry one of these days. So that's really clever. I never thought of it.
We have a whole Avengers vs. X-Men arc. We got to keep.
I know. We got to get back. We got to get back. But it was such a great thing. So what I really want to do is rather than have me, because if I try to tell the story of the book to give the broad strokes, I'm going to start complaining during my thing. So
I'll recap it. I can do a recap.
You to recap it.
I'll recap it.
You and Cartoonicus tag team if you feel like it or whatever. But you go ahead and tell the story the best way you can, briefly, but the best way you can to give it that shine, and then I'll come over and break it.
Yeah. Let's see. How do I want to approach this? Because I've read a chunk of the tie-ins as well, right? So this is one of those things. We are now. I'm not going to go into too many rabbit holes about the tie-in stuff because we read the main book. This book had a main book. It had a bunch of tie-ins, as many crossover events do. It released very quickly, even in comparison to other events. It released pretty fast. There were comics they were releasing. You can actually look in the issues I think that we read, and you'll say in 2 weeks we're releasing another one. So the amount of volume they pushed out, they wanted this to be a summer blockbuster, and they wanted it to be 13 issues, which they managed to do both. Because sometimes when they do that summer blockbuster thing, I think they can do it like 5 issues or something. But they managed to cram like 12 main issues, a preview one for a 0 issue for a total of 13 just for the main story, and they managed to do it all in 7 months. And then when you add on, like, the omnibus for this thing is thick. The tie-ins were immense. So I collected some of the tie-in stuff. The 2 main books I would argue would be the main book, and then they did a fight book, which we kind of expanded on some of the fighting here. Because the pitch for this whole thing, let's face it, the whole pitch for this, and the reason why I got excited for it, and why it was successful, this was a very successful from a monetary perspective, it did really well for Marvel, was its pitch, which was in the title. It was, we want the action figures to mash together. And I would argue and say, from the get-go, this is Marvel since if not day 1, day 2. Since the Golden Age, you can quote chapter and verse of having, Namor and Human Torch smack each other around. So, and as Hutch, the other Marvel comic you've read, the minute the Fantastic Four get introduced, you have the characters on the same team getting into fisticuffs with each other.
In case anyone hasn't noticed my slideshow this entire time.
So it's the
on the flimsiest of premises they get in a fight, and I have to say that is what bugged me about this whole book, is that people who should be very sane just walk up to each other and it's like, "You're coming with us." No, okay, blam, 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 and it's like, I wouldn't throw a fist just because this person gave me one sentence the other way. It's like, what is wrong with these Marvel characters? They can't have a conversation without somebody.
To be fair, this is such a ingredient of the Marvel universe that when they did a Marvel and DC crossover, the DC characters comment on it. Mm-hmm. They comment on how violent the Marvel universe is and how unreasonable people are. So
what's
that
is that
it's in the DNA.
After having seen that go down the way it did in Civil War, this was like a breath of fresh air in comparison.
Oh God, no.
All right, I do agree. I agree with Katrina.
We have to come back to that. But
let me do the recap. So the recap is this. It's a big event crossover comic. The pitch is having the Avengers fight the X-Men. I was on board with it because we're gonna get people who maybe you don't see fight each other as often fight each other. So I'm showing up. So the pretext, they have to give a pretext for this. The pretext is the Phoenix, which is the big X-Men brouhaha, and has been for decades. So the Phoenix comes back to Earth, and it's going to come for hope. Everyone knows this. They know it on a symbolic level, a mystical level. They even know it when they track the energy signatures. So the Avengers go, well, we don't have as much experience with the Phoenix as the X-Men, but it's clearly very dangerous. We need to do something about it. And they approach the X-Men, who currently live on Utopia, which I believe is off the coast of California at the time.
Is it on Alcatraz? It looks like it's on Alcatraz.
I don't think it's Alcatraz. I think it's something else.
Catalina?
Is it the remains of Asteroid M that's in this ocean or
I
something?
don't know.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
I think it's something like that. But it's
Either
that's
way, it is gutsy to have an island nation, completely sovereign, set up
well.
miles
so
off
that-
the coast of another country.
That's the fallout from the Siege and Dark Reign storyline when Norman Osborn ran the country with
Oh, yeah.
Iron Man's suit. So the X-Men say, hey, we're not on board with that. We're going to make our own country off the coast of, California. And they're already kind of in this sort of like, they're like Cuba in a way. They're sort of a rogue state.
Well, it makes sense comparing them to Cuba because they're also controlled by megalomaniac elitists who refuse, to let
well,
the people
the
have their own
storyline,
voice.
the reason that I'll give that I think gives some justification for it is they're under a lot of
Friggin'
stress.
commies.
They're under a lot of stress because they feel like they are being genocided, and they blame that on Wanda. But they're extinctifying. Their population is dwindling. They feel
They're
like
not,
they're running out.
Convoy.
That's so stupid. Okay, sorry. I said
Anyway,
I wasn't going to interrupt.
that's what the characters say. I'm not.
I
I
know,
just.
I know,
This
I know,
is
I
what.
know. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, so that's the setup. That's why the X-Men are not like super happy to work with someone who shows up and says, "Hey, this force of not just destruction but of rebirth that's coming for Hope. We predict that the Phoenix, through Hope, can undo what Wanda has done. She can basically restart the mutant race, as it were. That's the whole pitch here." From the X-Men side, the Avengers show up, and there's a fight because they do not agree. And then there's the first 5 issues is basically them just fighting over who gets to get control of Hope. And Hope is like, I don't want to deal with either of you. I'm going to run for the hills. They all converge on the moon when the Phoenix shows up. And Tony Stark says, I got myself a Tony Stark gun. I think I can kill this thing. And he shoots it, and it doesn't work, which was kind of refreshing that Tony Stark did something that failed. Because he
That's
becomes
all Tony does
in
this
some-
entire book is fail.
in some-
Every single issue.
after the MCU, he started to become a little bat god to me, where like, he always succeeds. So it was kind of nice reading back on this that he
Reed Richards 2.0.
it was kind of satisfying to see him goof a little. But he goofs a little bit, and instead of killing the Phoenix, he splits it into 5 parts, and it possesses 5 X-Men. So now there's 5 Phoenixes instead of 1, and they
This is where
proceed
part
to
2 of the comic happens.
right. This is the second half. They proceed to remake the planet. Ostensibly, it's for peaceful ends, but just like the One Ring, they all slowly become corrupted by the power, and then everybody, including the X-Men, at the end, all have to gang up and stop the Phoenixes. As you defeat one, the power just goes into the remaining ones and makes them more powerful. And so by the end, the one who remains standing is Cyclops, and he has all of it. And he becomes Dark Phoenix, and everybody has to gang up to defeat him. And in this entire comic, only one person that I can think of actually dies, which already makes it better than Civil War just from the numbers. After all of this carnage, only one person dies. What?
I don't think that's correct.
It is.
I think there are lots of people that have died.
Well, lots of
Like,
bystanders.
There
Not
might have been
super people.
casualties.
Yeah.
And
Like,
stuff, but we
I'm
don't
pretty
see
sure in some of the scenes of the
characters
totalitarian
written
takeover of Earth that there are people that are crushed under debris and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
But we're not
yeah.
seeing
but-
characters
thousands of
being
people.
written out of the series.
Civil. Okay, we're talking. That's mayhem. That happens in everything. I'm talking about Civil
yeah.
War kills the entire New Warriors, and by
Right,
page
yeah,
1.
that's 6 dudes. That's not like
No, but there's like hundreds of kids died in that blast. It was like
Goliath.
200
Yeah,
or 300
but
kids.
again,
So
we're talking
it's-
about like a cities of thousands being lowered to like rubble.
No, that's every superhero fight has that.
Right.
I'm talking about like in terms of like we know what I'm saying when I talk about like the superhero bloodbath, like something like Infinite Crisis, where you're seeing like a whole bunch of characters just getting ruthlessly butchered. A lot of carnage happens, but it's all meant to be relatively interpreted as just superhero carnage, and only like one character dies. It's
Yeah.
Professor X.
Yeah. So what we're actually seeing here is this is well anyway. I'll go on with it later.
They all gang up. They defeat Cyclops. They defeat Cyclops by having the Scarlet Witch and Hope gang up together, and Hope can copy people's powers. She copies Iron Fist's powers. They establish Iron Fist has a weird connection to the Phoenix. Scarlet Witch has chaos magic. They establish this yin yang connection, which is a little bit slapdash. But they come up with their MacGuffin ability to defeat Dark Phoenix, although the tie-ins expand on that. I can get to that. But they defeat Cyclops. The status quo is restored. But this is what sets up the next era of Marvel. They combine new teams together at the end of this. They want to make a new era for both Avengers and X-Men. And I'm trying to think what else happens. Like I said, I mentioned before, Marvel now happens after this. They change everything after this.
What was interesting to me is that the Phoenix, the threat that we've been seeing all this time, does actually turn out to do what it came to. But unexpectedly, it doesn't destroy anything. It does end up, rebirthing the universe itself and kind of becoming a good thing in that, which I thought was a neat little twist.
Yeah, well, Cyclops was entirely accurate, so all of the carnage is fine.
That's not where this book wants both characters to have a say. He gets his say on that, and he's shown to have been
correct.
No, he's shown to be like no, he is not shown to be correct. He's only incidentally.
In fact, I think they say everyone's wrong.
Can I point out I was really lost reading this because Professor X is walking, Magneto is on the X-Men, and Cyclops throughout sounds like Magneto. From everything that I've ever heard of Magneto talking about the mutants, that's the way he talks about them.
You're not wrong.
This is my race. It's going to be the next. They're the superior, and they're going to take over Earth. And how dare anybody do anything to my beloved mutants? It's like They just transplanted Magneto's personality into Cyclops, who I always thought was like a nice guy. And
apparently, I've been hearing ever since that people really hate Cyclops, and I didn't.
So I think it's since Schism.
People hate Cyclops because his outfit has tons of pockets on it, but apparently that's only the 90s. So
they put Cyclops again. We could talk about this for a while, but Cyclops was put on a long arc. It's not overnight. He was put on a long arc through several storylines, and many people will probably have problems with that where he ends up. But he was put on a long journey, and like I said, just having read like the Siege Utopia storyline, the Cyclops that they've created over the past several decades, it's not a shock that he ends up being Magneto-esque.
Well,
whether that's a compelling or not is up to your mileage may vary.
Throughout that entire journey too, he's like jumping around personality wise. He's not consistent the whole time. You could argue that before, like the all new, all different and Marvel Now stuff, that Cyclops was the most bastardized character in Marvel.
Yeah. Or flanderized.
I'll tell you, I certainly wasn't expecting this storyline.
Yeah, well, I was, because this is exactly the kind of story that I expected to read after Civil War happened, and that was it's precisely the kind of anti-human, anti-Western claptrap that I had come to expect from Marvel after this happened. So
anti-Western, that might be a bit of a stretch.
Oh no, absolutely. No, you see, the thing about this story is it is actually the in 13 issues. It is the rise and fall. It follows exactly the same frame as the rise and fall of the Soviet Union throughout the 20th century. So,
you mean the depiction of Utopia rise and falling?
Yes. Yeah, for the exactly, yeah.
Wouldn't that make it a pro-Western comic because they're showing that thing fall?
Except
like,
that,
I don't know if your metaphor works entirely.
He was right. Cyclops
he's
was right.
not.
What he thought was going to happen happened. And
Just
he's
because he
totally
got one
justified.
detail, just because he got one detail right,
He's-
does not mean he's
he
shown
is
the story. Does not
totally
the weight of the story
justified.
is emotionally
Yes,
is not on
but
him.
He's totally justified in that because he saved his race. He did it, and they justify the story justifies this again.
That's
and
not
again
true.
and again.
Captain America says that it's not that what Cyclops did was unnecessary. That if he had
Right,
actually just stayed, if he had stepped down and given the power to Hope, you would have gotten the same result. His intervention was not right. That's the ending with Captain America.
Right, but Captain America, that's what Captain America says. Captain America doesn't have any proof of that.
Well, also, you
And there's
know,
no backup.
Cyclops
There is
only-
absolute proof. It's no, I disagree. Well, hold on.
No,
The end of the story with Hope, it completely demonstrates that while Cyclops is like, air quotes, right, like, I saved my race, Cap is like, dude, you didn't have to do it this way. And Hope is proof positive of that, because the minute that she gets the power, she does everything that they needed without having to kill anyone for it, because she gets the power, gives it up, and the mutants come back.
The only
the
reason
way
she
I
had
saw
the strength
this-
to do that was because she was training, she was going through all that kind of stuff. She had the cooperation of Scarlet Witch, all that kind of stuff, and none of that would have happened if Cyclops hadn't decided to do
no, that doesn't. The most of the, actually, you're missing the part where she gets the training. Okay, the training she gets. This is a little expanded on in the tie-in, but it is referenced in the main storybook. The training that she gets that matters is not from Cyclops. She goes to Kunlun.
No, that's
and
what I'm talking about.
No.
She would never have gone to Kunlun if Cyclops
Kunlun has
decided to be a
Spider-Man train her. It is Spider-Man's training, specifically the conversations he has with Hope. That is like chapter and verse that the story says. It's actually Spider-Man that saves the day here.
Right.
He trains her, and he mentally trains her, and that's how she's.
Spider-Man would not have been there.
That doesn't make Cyclops right. It just means
I say
he's
something?
part of the.
Can I say something here?
Oh sure.
What man intended for evil, God intended for good. All right? Bad people can do bad things, and good results can come out of them. It doesn't mean they're in the right. The way I read the end of this is that for everybody, both X-Men and Avengers, the purpose of the Phoenix was misunderstood. If they had just left it be, it probably had a plan to fix everything. But Cyclops had to intervene. He had to try to control everything. And because of that, he actually messed up everything. When they finally, when the plan was essentially finally allowed to continue as it was supposed to, that was when we discovered.
I think Metal is closer is onto something when he says, in a way, the comic shows them as all. It's less about being right.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
more that
I think pretty much
they're all being wrong.
Everyone's wrong. Yeah. Well, like even like there's the point where Scott's on the moon, right? And his own like subconscious, when he resurrects Jean, quote unquote, is also calling him insane. Like, if you were still had your humanity, you wouldn't have resurrected the corpse of your ex-wife on the moon.
Yeah.
I think it's another tie-in moment. Yeah. But that's a good.
Well,
that's
that
a
was
good
the
one.
main
Was that
was
the
the
main one?
issue.
That's the main one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I read that.
So
Okay. Sorry. I have so much of this. It gets jumbled. But there is another moment that's really good that Kieran Gillian writes. That is a nice moment with Cyclops, right? So I don't know if I might be able to pull it if you give me a second. But while this fight is happening in the tie-in books, and this is actually a good usage of the tie-in, there's a couple of moments where they show like the perspective of the Phoenixes. And because they're like multi-dimensional beings at this point with their godlike power, they can essentially be doing like two things at the same time. And so the tie-in books actually reference that. So while remember the fight with at the very end with Cyclops and Emma Frost? In Uncanny X-Men, the tie-in has the two of them drinking tea psychically, and they're having a conversation while the fight's happening. And they're like, ooh, at a certain point, Emma starts to bleed from her nose while she's drinking tea or something. She's like, Scott, this fight is going poorly. But they're still like having because they're multi-dimensional beings. And at the very end, because when Scott has all of the power, one dimension of himself is like bigger than the planet, and he looks at it and he's like, I could just smoke this whole thing, while he's getting punched out by Scarlet and Hope. And Jean shows up. He touches the white hot room, which is where Phoenixes go when they die. And Jean shows up and she tells him to let go. And so there's Kieran Gillian, I think, is the one who writes that, and he implies through that it wasn't just Hope and Scarlet Witch having girl power time that defeats Dark Phoenix Cyclops. There's a reading that says that it's that, and in combination with the fact that Scott, in a moment of regaining his sanity, lets go because he sees Jean's spirit. And it's a combination of those two things. Because, like I said, when you see, I'll pull it up. You see the tie-in, and
Yeah, dude. Because I was actually
Scott had a moment where he's like, "I'm bigger than the planet in one part of my consciousness. I can snuff this out in a blink," and he doesn't. So it's not. I know. Reese was reacting a little bit to some of the girl power here. There's a little more than that.
Because one of the things you have with Hope is that like Hope is a mimic, basically, right? So she absorbs the energies of things around her. So she's
don't forget though, she's also Jean.
Yes, she's also Jean.
Right.
Okay, which is Jean-esque.
she's manifesting the Scarlet Witch's powers. She's absorbed the power from the dragon that powers, or from one of the dragons that powers Iron Fist, which is also a really stupid plot hole. That was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Not that part of it. The part before, I'll get to it in a second. So it's not like with Hope in this situation, it's a that it stands to reason that she would be involved in this. So it's not necessarily a girl power thing, and it's not even something that's anti-feminine.
I found it. You can share it if you want.
Right. In 1 second. Sure. It's not even something that's anti-feminine, really, because the whole purpose of the reason that the Scarlet Witch and Hope are united in this is an act of preservation. So it's actually a metaphorically feminine motive with that. So I didn't necessarily think of it as a girl power moment. It was just everything that led up to it was just really dumb. But
I'm not going to defend every moment here. Like I said, we could nitpick it all night. But let me, So this is the moment I was mentioning, and this maybe rehabilitates some of it a bit. Like while he is having the fight where he's getting punched by Hope and Scarlet Witch, another part of his consciousness is doing this simultaneously. So I did enjoy this from the tie-ins. The tie-ins don't just add. This is a strength and a weakness of the crossover, because it's like, if it's this important, why isn't it in the main book?
Right.
So I know and others will probably agree with me on that. But
the other side of it is like this is a great moment. It has no reflection upon Scott at the end of the book. Like if this actually happened within the context of the canon story, right? Scott would end up that fight as a broken person, understanding what he had done, but he has no remorse and no regret. There's nothing rehabilitative about it. It's just pompousness, and it's just opinions that are different because, and like Spider-Man needed to be there to teach Hope that sort of thing. She needed to learn discipline from the Iron Fist. She needed to be empowered by the Dragon of Kunlun. She needed all this stuff that had to be in place for it. And I mean, of course, that's the way they wrote the story, but it's one of those things where it's just like, no, in order for the story to have any coherence, you have to have Scott go rogue, and he has to be justified in going rogue. And so it's a very much of an end justifies the means from the whole perspective. And
that's been his character for years, though. Whether we like it or not, that's been him.
Well, and Scott has always had a certain level of tactical pragmatism, but that's not the same as an end justifies the means. There's
that's like, this is clearly his villain arc. And again, I'm not even defending that. I'm just saying that like when I read it's
like his fifth villain arc.
It wasn't super implausible for the story to see him.
Well, I mean, I would say probably
whether I liked it or not. Because like I said,
probably a third villain arc, because this is all I really see this as all one from that moment where Morrison took over the title, to him cheating on Jean, to Jean's death, to him hooking up with Emma Frost in a
cheating on Jean's a big no.
Yeah.
But if you want to count it as all, two of his other villain arcs were in that time, so I can say third.
Yeah. So this is all part of one big.
That's just Morrison's fault.
Thing, I would think.
Yeah. That's just because Morrison prefers blondes to redheads.
Well, and this whole other thing is this whole crop of writers, they worshipped Grant Morrison. So It's very clear that that's part of the.
So
of the
we
theme.
we beat around the bush a little bit here. I'd love to spend a little time talking about but you know I think it's pretty clear about who likes it, who likes the book, who doesn't. But I think it's important to talk about the crux of this book. The whole point of it was it's an opportunity to have the action figures bash together, and this is where I have some criticism. I definitely have criticism for this storyline. I do like it,
Mhm.
and I like it on a reread.
Well, were
I
you
will
and I
say,
the only ones that have read this before? Cartoonicus, did you read this before today or before
I
this
had
week?
tried to read it back in the day.
Hmm.
And what happened was this was only one of the first few times I had actually read a Marvel comic. The other times just being flipping through copies that Twitless had in his house.
Oh, so were you overloaded?
Actually, well, that's the interesting thing. See, after reading a couple of those and then getting to this one, and I'm going through the first issue, and I realized something. For some reason, I like reading dialogue in DC comics way more than I do in Marvel. It feels like a chore in Marvel. And when I told
Yes.
Twitless that, he said, I know why it is. And that's when I learned about the Marvel method.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because the writing is kind of unnecessary to the action. Yeah.
So yeah. So speaking of
The
well,
writing is unnecessary. That's true. That's why they're always fighting.
Marvel
but I think-
method I will say that the Marvel method as we know it was mostly a Stan Lee thing. They don't. It's not like a hard fast rule at Marvel anymore. They'll have people do full script. Like obviously, Claremont I think did a lot of full script type stuff.
They
Oh,
do
yes.
encourage the artist and the writer to work together, but there are a lot of cases of just like the writer scripting and then the artist doing it.
Right.
now.
So when it was
Yeah.
Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, it was a method. And Stanley said he himself said this was a method I only think me and Jack could pull off. I wouldn't even recommend it to other people. But I will say that DC
You have to have a synergy with the person you're working with
Yeah.
to pull that off.
DC
Yep.
does tend to do heavier plotting and scripting than Marvel does. When I was at Heroes Con, that was brought up. I think even by Chris and crap, who was it? Claremont, and it was the name escapes me. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, the Marvel method's still a thing, but it's not like a rule. It hasn't been for probably after Stan did it. But I think it would be good for us to talk about the fight part of this book because, like I said, the action figure mashing was the reason for the season. And this is where
And there's only like 2 good fights.
I have mixed feelings.
that's
I think
not
there's
the
more than
entire thing for it.
2. I think there's more than 2, but
I would disagree that there was one.
I highly disagree
Maybe
with
the one
that.
at the end.
Highly disagree with
Yeah.
that. But unfortunately, because of how they did this comic, I think the best fight is in the tie-in. And I do want to share it.
I'm just saying based on the
Is this
main
going to be
story,
the
there's only
Iron
two.
Man Magneto one?
No, actually, that one's pretty good. I think the best one is in I think it's issue 3.
So in this 13-issue comic, to explain how little I found the fights in any way compelling, I think I read this entire thing in an evening because
Mhm.
it really wasn't that interesting.
Well, so this the problem is like this needed a fight book, and what I mean good, I don't mean like written well. All right, I'm talking about just like blocking from like a fight is
Share my
actually
screen. I got a
happening.
good one. I got good blocking.
Yeah.
This is the best one.
I will say there were definitely some moments of confusion in the artwork.
Sorry.
I think we both tried to share a screen.
All right, so this
my
is from,
problem is in the main book, there aren't actually a lot of fights. It's mostly a lot of just stills of characters like
Correct.
on the same screen at the same
and
time.
that's they were so. This is where I actually would have preferred it if I don't know because I actually when I was reading the Phoenix stuff, I actually it was very action packed and I my pulse got quickened when it was the Avengers hiding from the X-Men as opposed to the other way around, which is a clever twist of because normally it's the X-Men who's hiding from everyone, now it's the Avengers hiding from everyone, and my pulse was quickening as Cap is trying to hide from demigods. So I like that, but
Is that
I remember-
Juggernaut?
This is Colossus, who's gotten the powers of Juggernaut. He
Oh,
made a
that's so
deal with
stupid.
He made a deal with
that is
Sidorak.
Roscoff. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It made sense in
Everything
con.
we've talked about the Marvel Universe tonight, and that's the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
No, I mean I'm being hyperbolic. I've heard many dumber things, but this is.
I have always liked
hate
this
it.
page. This one packs an entire fight scene into a page, and it's just the setup to have him go and fight the thing. So I think this one, let me look who did this one. It is Ed McGuinness. Ed McGuinness and actually our friend Jeff Loeb. There's so much fighting happening that they pull off, like I said, in just one page. I just love this page. I've remembered it for a very long time. Just using 4-panel grids to just have fight, and because that was kind of the point. And I remember, it's weird for me to say this, but one of my criticisms of Avengers versus X-Men is I think it is too much and not enough. It is too much from the Phoenix side and not enough of the actual fighting, which is what I came here for.
Not enough of the thing that you were promised.
When I read it, I remember feeling that way because the fight book gives you a little bit more. Like there's a good fight between Psylocke and Daredevil. That's pretty good. I remember being disappointed in the fight between Hawkeye and Angel because you have a perfect setup for air superiority versus sniper, which is a great pitch for a fight. And I think they could have delivered on it better, but they got really caught up in the Phoenix storyline, which is fine on its own. I almost feel like these should be two separate story arcs, though, because I really would have loved them to have spent some more time with just having, because once you do the Phoenix stuff, fighting the Phoenix isn't as interesting because it's just survival mode. Having these characters who don't normally combat each other, having these action figures, having this version of Super Smash Brothers is why I showed up, and is why a lot of people did show up.
That's
and I
the
think,
problem with the plot, right? Because it's ultimately a man versus nature plot, but then within it, there's a man versus man plot, right? Where like they have to get past that before they can get to the actual man versus nature, which is everybody against the Phoenix.
Is the Phoenix nature, though?
The Phoenix is nature. It represents nature.
Sort of. I mean, within the context of the Marvel Universe, it is.
I feel like it's well beyond
it's the conceptual inevitability of destruction.
It is a literal force of nature.
The preservation of life. Both things. It's the Phoenix Force is the concept of the mythological Phoenix. So
anyways, what I'm saying is like I said, there is some fun fights here in this book, and I did enjoy them, but I often thought there wasn't enough. And the whole, because you have a cast with so many characters in it, there's so many cool combinations you could do. I think it would have been more fun to see a true psychic mind battle between the Avengers' best mentalist, whoever that. I think they mentioned they might have had access to Moondragon, but like there's a reason why they can't use her. I don't, and I was not clear on that why. Like there's a lot of opportunities there that I think they could have delivered that they didn't, because I was like, we got to do the Phoenix storyline. We got to keep this thing moving. Every 2 weeks we have to ramp it up, and they get caught up in the inertia of their own events movement.
There was one confrontation that I found interesting, and that was the Magneto versus Iron Man, where Iron Man like channels his suit to have better magnetism powers than Magneto by actually using he uses the magnetic power of Jupiter instead of Earth or something like that. I don't know. It's
this one, right? It's right here. Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, that's kind of cool. I don't know. I really didn't enjoy this book because it's just all a bunch of characters fighting and I don't care about them. And so
here's the other thing about this book that I didn't read the fight book at all because I was so underwhelmed with the main book. I'm like, why would I want more of this crap? But the other side of it is just like for many of the conflicts, I just wanted everyone to lose, and because.
There's no way you thought that way about Spider-Man versus Spider-Man's like one of his best feats, playing a trickster and getting the two demigods to beat each other was a fantastic Spider-Man moment.
That moment was good. That moment was good.
Thank
I
you.
will give you.
Okay. All right.
I will
Thank
give you
you.
that. That moment was really good.
The thing is, I think
Spider-Man standing.
Spider-Man-
Spider-Man gets. He is. I made a joke about Thing being MVP in a comedic way. He is. Spider-Man is MVP for the book. Marvel knows who pays the check, and Spider-Man gets wonderful moments in this. He faces down 2 demigods, not one, and manages to not give up, come out on top.
And turn them against each other. That was clever. That was a well thought out thing.
I was
Dude, he's
really
also one of the
surprised
few
at that.
characters
Here's
that
part of my
acts
thing.
like
is, like,
himself.
I'm sorry, you were saying, Metal?
I said he's also one of the few characters in this series that actually acts like himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
Which is pretty par for the
Wolverine,
course when it
I will
comes
say
to,
Wolverine does. Captain America just acts. He acts
Yeah,
exactly
Wolverine
like
was on the
Tony
list.
acted in Civil War, and so that was stupid. Tony acted like Reed Richards, only stupid. T'Challa was
Ben
just your
Grimm
nagging
acts like
grandma who
himself
thinks you
in
shouldn't
the
cut your hair.
spin-offs.
Grimm was
Black
on
Panther-
point.
Yeah, Grimm was also one of the ones who was kind of on point too.
Yeah.
Grimm's on point.
But I mean, like I said, Black Panther was just your nagging grandma who wants you to cut your hair.
That's the
And,
only Black Panther I know.
His fight with Storm actually had some of the more pathos in the story.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the Disney effect, but that is the
was
only
sad.
Black Panther I have ever known.
Yeah. And it was one, and I don't think was that in the main book. I don't think so.
Yeah, that was.
I think it's alluded
they
to.
reference it. They talk
What?
about
I think
it.
it's
Yeah, there's like a
referenced,
few panels of them, but I think the fight happens after those panels in another book.
Yeah.
But
And
let me show the end of that because at the end of each of these, they put like who the winner is because they're being all meme about it, and because they break up, it says winner. There are no winners here, and that was a nice.
Well, and here's
that was
the
a nice
thing- okay,
moment.
and this goes back to my conception about this being an entirely conceptually gay project, right? Like these guys, and I'll talk more about that in a second, or maybe more.
I don't know if you can look at that moment in issue 6 with all the women and say this is gay, but
yeah, totally, 100%, 100% I can.
sure. Okay.
But we'll get to that in a second, because
there's a lot
anyway,
of testosterone in this. I'm sorry, but
the point, yeah, that doesn't mean it's not gay.
oh my gosh.
So
Heterosexual
He's actually got a
testosterone.
point there.
Okay, yeah, I misspoke, but like the way they draw Emma Frost is like smoke show. Like there's a
Once
lot of
again-
straight horny boy stuff going on.
Yeah, straight horny boys also really, really enjoy, girl on girl. So, and that's also super gay. So, back to my point about this one is like it's a dissolution of a marriage, of a young marriage. These guys hadn't even been together that long in the comic. They banked all this stuff on saying, "Oh, we're going to say, this Avengers X-Men union. They're going to have this African goddess and this idea of this African paradise, and we're going to really highlight Black excellence in this union of these two different aspects. It's going to be really great." And they're married for what, 3 years? So in comic books, like a month and a half, right? Maybe. And so it's like, yeah, there's a poetic sadness to this, and that's great from on the one hand. The other hand, it is the intentional destruction of the future, of any hope of the future for these characters. They've never come back to being meaningful, I don't think, in the comics ever since then. It's always just like it's like Wanda and the Vision. Like every time they're on panel together, if they're not in the middle of a fight scene, it's like, oh man, we're really sad we're not together again. Or you get the weird autistic aspect from Vision because he's a robot, right? And so it's just all sadness and grief. It's Hank and Janet Pym. It's just all sadness and grief. It's every book that Mary Jane and Peter are together. It's just all sadness and grief. Like
Not Ultimate Spider-Man, but
these guys are. Yeah, they're not publishing that anymore, though, are they?
No, they are. Yeah, they are. The new version of it.
They were canceling the whole line. But anyway,
the one
That
they're
wouldn't
currently
sell
running
too
is
well.
like no. The one they're
Yeah.
currently running is like their like best-selling book.
Yeah, they can't afford to cancel that.
yeah. Anyway, and I could be wrong with that. But that's what I'm saying is like, so you have this and and
It doesn't negate your point about a lot of marriages being dissolved.
right. They have these things, they just dissolve them, right? And so I guess this might as well bring it up there. The reason I say that this is a conceptually gay book, right? Yes, there's erotic stuff in it, but that doesn't mean it's not gay. Like
I think our
everything-
conceptions of gay are different, but
Right.
go on.
Right, probably because one of the things you have here is like the main crux of the story, right, is that from the mutants' perspective is that we've been decimated, even though nobody's dead. We've been decimated because we're not special anymore. And we can't make more special people the old-fashioned way. No, we have to expect, the bird god to make more of us. It's this we're coming for your children vibes over this entire thing, this manufactured
That's a take.
identity, because it is. Because the thing is, the whole mutant thing, it's not biological in this book. It's not about life. It's not about building anything. It's not about the future. It's about creating a cloistered society of us special people on a conceptual identitarian level. It's not like it's not life affirming. It is. It is.
I don't know if you. Okay, that might be going too far. This book is like. There is an angle on this that's very life affirming. Just it doesn't have the same.
And so even with the idea that life what this book says is that life in the abstract is good, right? But it's not life affirming in the way that people that are alive can participate in more life, right? Everything about this identitarian aspect is hedonistic, and even in the way that sexuality is portrayed in issue 6 of the Fight book, we were talking about, where it's like, you get to see the pretty girls, yeah, but what do you do with seeing, right? It's about making a life with people, and you're not seeing that lived out by anyone in the story. Everybody's just a sad, broken person, and they've got these ideas.
So there's one mother. Marvel allows for like 2 mothers at one time. They allow Sue Storm and Jessica Jones. I don't know why.
That's gay.
I don't know why they do that. But Jessica Jones is in this book with her family, and Luke Cage is there, and they do their little family dance. Yeah. So maybe Power Pack. I don't know.
Pack. The Power Pack's mom is there.
Yeah, there's like 3.
I love
you get to have,
Power Pack.
There's like 3 moms you get to have.
I always saw Storm as kind of being the mother to the X-Men.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is like this, like found family can be a really potent story.
What Reese is talking about, if I'm not mistaken, is a I don't know. Okay, what you're discussing is natalism. You're talking about a pro or anti-natalism zeitgeist or spirit in the book. I'm not convinced that this is gay, but the natalism thing I think is a fair point to raise. I don't know if that is in this moment of Marvel. I don't know if I would say that is an intentional agenda point.
Right.
I would say that let me say where I agree with you. I would say that the Marvel of Avengers versus X-Men before Marvel Now, which is, like I said, the day after this. So it's not even like, it's barely 24 hours before they change tack. I would say that the Marvel of this period is not the anti-natalism of like wanting to be queer and trying to destroy families. It is the avoidance of maturity, being like, ew, I don't want like family ties. I just want to have my fun with hot chicks.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that the natalism thing isn't happening, but the gay agenda, the really gay agenda, shows up, like I said, in Marvel Now and afterwards.
Right.
I think here it's just boys wanting to be boys and being like, ew, I don't want to grow up.
Here's my pushback to that, though, right? Because I mean, I see what you're saying, but you can't sell you really can't sell Will and Grace until you've already sold Murphy Brown.
Okay. You realize I did not watch TV in the 90s. Okay, so whatever you said might as well have been Greek.
Yeah, that's probably fair, because the thing is that's the other part of it you got to look that I'm looking at different from you from a generational perspective.
Sure.
Is the soup that you were swimming in was already so gay?
No, I swam in a very Christian soup.
But even then, but the thing is, like
I didn't watch. I told you I didn't watch TV in the 90s.
Can I explain for any of the viewers that Murphy Brown was like she made a huge hit because she decided to not marry the father of her child. She just had a child on her own, and that's what the whole Dan Quayle thing was, that he called that out, and they said, "Oh, you're against women having babies." And it's like, no, he's that's not what he's saying. There are writers who chose to do this, and he thought the writers made a bad choice. And then Friends did the same thing, and then you have Will and Grace, which I never watched, but I assume that wasn't she trying to get pregnant by her gay friend or roommate or whatever?
Later. Yeah, that came out later.
I have no idea if that's what you're talking about, but it's in other words,
I think it was the first time there was a major character who.
Yeah, Will is gay and Grace is not, and they both have different romantic partners.
I know that's what the show's about. I just I just meant in terms of the foundation for that is laid in Murphy Brown doing that in the 90s and Friends doing that in the later 90s, and then it's like you don't just go right to Will and Grace. In other words,
And then that and Ellen DeGeneres are the gateway drug to
gateway drug
drag queen story alley.
Can I just ask? I reread issue 6 because you're talking about issue 6 being all women, and I looked through it and I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's it's the last issue 6 of the Fight Book. There's a 1-page story
of the Fight book. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I was talking about that one that has it's the horny boys page. And the point I was trying to make there is that the Marvel of Avengers versus X-Men, that era, was comfortable with Marvel being a brand that spoke to that audience. And the Marvel of Disney is very clearly not. So you could very much see a distinct line between the two, where it's the guilty pleasure, of boys being boys. And like I said, Sana Amanat comes on, and I think they were making their plans for Marvel Now to be, like I said, that sort of soft relaunch.
Right. But in order to do that, they had to deconstruct anything that could be there from before. And this book, it feels like the next generation deconstruction of that deconstruction that started in Civil War.
Okay, I kind of get what you're talking about. That it's like Star Wars, where you can't have a little world where boys like to go off and fight and rescue princesses, and it's like, ew, we want to change Star Wars to be something else because boys can't have that. So it's kind of the same thing as what they're doing to Marvel, is what you're saying.
If you look at this again, here's another page from issue, I think 5. The way that both Emma Frost gets somewhat to be drawn sexy, but like Psylocke, the way she's drawn here on the left, they don't draw her this way, I think ever after this book. They completely change her costume. This was around, I think, I'm trying to remember if this is around the time they did the Hawkeye initiative, where it was let's really draw attention to the fact that women have to have pants now. Skirts don't exist.
I think that was in the Hawkeye run that literally followed this book.
All of that stuff. Like I said, that's why I think this book is fascinating. Regardless of our debates about it, it's still a good book. Fascinating. I'm sorry.
There was a good book that followed this run, but nobody read it. It was the Gambit solo run.
I'm not talking about that there were no good books. Yeah. What I'm saying is that there is a marked difference in the Marvel era.
I'm saying, but Gambit. Book worked like this era. Like if you want to tack it on, like that solo run might be the last lingering thing.
Okay.
Yeah. You actually reminded me of something, Twitless, because one major difference between Marvel and Disney Marvel is the portrayal of Captain Marvel. And I noticed in this book she was still Miss Marvel. Now I could have sworn in chat you had said something about this is how she became.
No, so that was me, and
that was you.
I was misremembering. It was literally the Amazing Spider-Man after this.
Okay, Metal. Actually, I'll do you one better. In Avengers versus X-Men Consequences, which is
did they already do it in there?
She shows up in the short haircut and the new outfit.
Okay.
So I believe it is like
I didn't reread Consequences. That's probably where I was remembering it from.
See, and I want to. So
it's the epilogue book to this.
Sorry,
literally, like I said, the day after.
Right. Well, and that once again, like I said, I think this is setting the table. I think this is setting the table for all of that. I think it.
So basically, Reese, what you're really saying is that you dislike this comic for the same reason that I dislike the Killing Joke. It's not necessarily the comic itself that's so bad as the legacy that it left behind.
That's Kingdom Come all over again.
Well, yes,
it's exactly Kingdom Come.
Let me go to the I don't want to spend forever on this, but like there are several plot issues that I thought were just the stupidest things ever. One, and I don't know
There's
if
a couple
anybody-
dumb moments. I'm not going
Oh
to.
yeah,
Well,
there's a
no,
huge,
we
so
say, I think
one of them
I
is
don't
the
think any
actual.
of us loved this comic, right?
Yeah.
There are going to
the-
be silly things, but I'm so used to it in superhero comics, it just practically goes over my head.
That's also how I took it. There were a couple of dumb moments, and I rolled my eyes and kept. And it was,
I think virtually every moment was dumb. But moving on, right? So I see no logical reason, no compelling argument, and nothing was said in the comic that made it make sense for Cyclops to believe the things he believes about the Phoenix Force. Like that doesn't. I don't see anything that makes that make sense.
because he has
That's
hope.
one,
Wouldn't know.
right?
Because he has hope.
He has hope. Yeah. But even then, that should make a difference, right? Like, why would hope be the thing? I mean, like maybe there was something.
No, I
that
mean,
before here
like,
that-
I was being jokey with it. He has
I know.
hope that something's going
I-
to turn this
double
around because
entendre.
he has his.
he's got
He's so sold on this, ethno state thing
right, which is
that.
gross. And once again, if they want more mutants, they can just make more mutants.
That's not how
It's
it works,
not-
though. The mutant gene doesn't work that way entirely.
It
Like
does.
it's random.
Yeah, it is random, but that's like the thing is, but that's part of the thing is okay. So let's take a look at this. Like if you want to force on here the race metaphor, right? Let's assume that this is the race metaphor on here. That okay.
I don't know
so
about
you
race.
got-
We'll go with ethnicity.
right.
Or
Okay. Fine.
we don't-
For think of it, but like
I mean, they
you
call
have-
it a race.
Yeah, they do. But
Okay, fair enough.
Can I just say for something before we continue? Like, this is where you're going to have to decide either whether you're going to accept a certain detail or just allow yourself to get around it. Because I think both Hutch and I agree on this concept that having mutants in the Marvel universe as it is and having their plight the way it is doesn't make sense when you've got a world full of superheroes and then some people hate all these other people with superpowers, but only because of where those superpowers come from. Like, oh, you get it genetically versus you
Got
it
bit
and
by
then
a
you can even
spider.
get it
less, so I
genetically,
hate you and I
because-
love you, right?
because Spider-Man's powers become genetic. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing is his is so
Right.
altered that he's not
It just
his
can't
children.
be the X gene.
Can I
That's
just
it.
point out something that about this story that I was thinking about? That this is the thing where the 5 mutants of the only 200 that are remaining. I don't understand why there's any remaining at all. She said no more mutants, but the again they didn't recap that story for new readers, so I don't know. But of the remaining 200 mutants, 5 of them get the Phoenix Force and take over the world and tell everybody you don't get to have tanks and battleships. We're going to take all these away from you, and we're going to give you clean energy, and we're going to be gods and rule you all. And it's like, why wouldn't this planet be dreadfully frightened of mutants? This whole it's like they're racist. Everybody's so racist. And it's like this is the perfect reason.
They
why
actually
I'm-
use
that's
that
why I
at the
started off-
end. They use that to restart the status quo of everyone fearing mutants, which actually fits better. It's actually a better explanation than what was being brought up, which is where your powers come from, because the mutants did take over the world, and you should be afraid of them.
Right. So-
Chris Claremont had a good understanding of the fear concept when he does Days of Future Past, when he has the debate with Senator Kelly, because in that story, Professor X and the X-Men understand it's our job to win the argument by being better and being less threatening, because we actually have threatening powers. We acknowledge the fact that our powers are scary and your fears are not unfounded. We have to do a better job so that those fears never come to pass. And so Claremont understood the fact that this idea of fear was there's a basis for it, because if you have the ability to, as the film X3 points out, move a city with your mind,
Yeah.
some
Right.
people are going to be
Mhm.
scared of that, and there's probably a good reason, because if you have a bad day,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so but back to what I was saying.
So,
though,
yeah,
like,
sure.
in the very real world, right?
Mhm.
There is a phenomenon called black and white twins. right? And it happens when you have somebody who you have two parents who have both European and sub-Saharan African ancestry, and both of those sets of traits can be recessive in the right conditions. So you'll have black parents who will have twins children, and one will be white and one will be black, or European parents who will have twins and one will be white and one will be black, and they'll still be twins. In fact, there was a family in Britain 15 years, well, actually it's been more like 20 years ago now, that had two sets of black and white twin girls. And they were fraternal. They're fraternal twins is how it shakes out. Not identical, obviously, but they're fraternal twins. And so you have a situation where you'll have, Candy and Susan, and they're the same age. They gestated at the same time, but one of them got all of their ancestry's forgotten recessive black genes, and Sissy or whatever her name is got her parents' dominant white genes because they were dominant in that circumstance, and opposite for the whole kind of thing.
Well, it's also because of how complicated genes are, right? Like technically, this is happening all the time.
Right.
You just only notice it in those
let's-
extreme cases.
Right.
Let's fast forward the genetics lecture. We're on
Okay.
Avengers versus X-Men.
Okay, we're talking about X-Men. We're going to talk about genetics. So
Genetics is important to X-Men.
Okay.
genetics is it's the MacGuffin in the whole friggin' story. But here's the thing is so those parents, they have a child that doesn't fit their phenotype, right? Do you think they don't like it because it doesn't fit their phenotype? You think they're going to look at that little girl or little boy and be like, well, you're not like us? No, of course they're not, right? That's crazy to have that. So if you had a world, at any kind of realistic world where you're having mutants making babies, and some of their babies don't have their special gifts, they're dicks if they don't love both of their kids. And
Well, counterpoint.
Yeah,
you do
there's
have local people being bad to children that don't share their phenotype, especially if they happen to have like dwarfism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
it's totally a thing. It's and it's
Yeah.
without even having the racial thing. It's totally a thing to, I like this talented kid of mine. I despise the one who sucks.
The one redheaded kid in the family.
and you're right that kind of thing does happen, but that doesn't
all
make
the
it okay.
time.
But that doesn't make it okay.
But it makes it logical to
Yes.
have it in a world.
Yes.
So
But
that
what
goes
I'm
against
saying
what
is
you said, was the fact that
Right.
there would be no reason for that to happen.
there's not a reason. People are dicks, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's other than that. I'm talking about, when I say reason, I'm talking about a just reason. So if these
Sure,
mut-
yeah, no, not a
even-
just, yeah, I'm not
right.
saying it was
so
just.
if these mutants see themselves and their cause and their existence as a just thing, that they have a right to exist, then it's not just for them to hold against other people that exist in a different form than them, right? And that's one of those things where that's the hang up. That's one of the problems with this story, is that it just has this antinatalist perspective. This
Why? They're
we
the
don't
bad
like
guys.
you because the mutants' attitude is we don't like you because you're not like us, and that's the real racism.
Yep.
Right. Well, like I say,
That's interesting.
he sounds like the evil mutants with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. That's
Definitely, yeah.
That's the way he talks, and he's
Yeah.
supposed to be one of the good guys. So they've clearly changed who's going to be the mutant supremacist.
Yes.
Which was what Magneto used to be.
Right, and
now it's
Magneto
Cyclops.
ironically had his redemption story already, so it's like they swapped them out.
Yeah.
I'm not even that offended that I kind of like Cyclops, but him on this arc is, even if I don't like it, I find it compelling. There's something interesting because it takes him in an avenue to, I don't know, there's something compelling about it. It's hard to put my finger on it, but it's just
It was
like
definitely a
he
tragic
doubles
tale
down, he triples
because-
down on it afterwards, and it's like, okay, he's a
Right.
proper villain now. Okay, I can buy this. Sure, why not?
So, and once again, but even with that, that's once again more of this same. Back to my point, more of this same decomposition, this same deconstruction, setting that table for this next era of Marvel now by destroying the statues of what came before.
I don't think it only knocks down Cyclops, in my opinion. I think everyone else comes out of this unscathed. No one takes.
Yeah, but a lot of them were
damage.
already ruined prior to this, right? Like if we go back to Civil War and everything, it's like, okay, we already ruined those guys. Now we need to get the X-Men involved.
Yeah. So
I only saw Cyclops as being taken down. I didn't see it like this has undermined all of Marvel.
well, except everyone who went along with him who didn't like voluntarily switch sides. Like you get like some of the like students in the school that switch sides. You get Wolverine that switch sides early.
They all
on.
switch sides at the end.
Yeah,
they all
do.
switch sides.
Well, except you still have like Namor, who of course Namor's kind of a villain anyway.
Yeah, Namor. I'm not. Yeah, Namor is totally fine for this.
Can I just say, I keep trying to give Namor a chance, and every time he disappoints me.
Part of it is
wait, let me say something. There's one cool thing about Namor. There is another tie-in moment, and he and Cap have a moment. It's really cool because they go back to their history in World War II, and they have a moment, and there's like a special area that they can both go to that's like a shared. I think it's part from the past in the Invaders, and like they meet at this conference room, and it's like they honor the code of if you come to this conference room, it's a neutral ground for people who were in World War II. And the two of them share a moment, and and Namor's like, he's in Phoenix form, and he's like, I could totally like wipe you out with a thought, but I respect this room, I respect what we went through in World War II. And Cap's like, is there any way we could like not do this? And Namor's like, Namor says you could have trapped. Namor says to Captain America, you could have booby trapped. You could have done a stratagem to try and get me. And Cap says, no, I respect this room. I'm not going to violate the sacredness of this. And when Cap says, is there any way around this? Namor has a little moment again of clarity, and he says, I wish you'd booby trapped. I wished you had done a stratagem. And then he leaves. That's his little moment of like. But Namor's always been villainous, so
Namor's firmly in the anti-hero category, and
I like him for that.
Well, I like him for that too, but I also think that like there was a lot of logical rehabilitation of the character in the John Byrne run in the 90s and early aughts that was just such good, solid stuff. And the thing about the Namor thing that I find so disheartening in this story is, first of all, his presence doesn't really with the X-Men doesn't make any sort of sense at all. I think it makes sense for Namor to find out that he's a mutant later in life when he's like 106, for him to like, hey, you're a mutant. Oh, that's interesting. Namor wouldn't. No, there is no possible world in which Namor would give two flying farts that he's a mutant. It doesn't even.
Yeah, he'd just be like, so that's why I'm better than everyone. Cool,
exactly.
I'm gonna go back to doing what I'm doing.
And they'd be like, hey, do you want to be part of our society? And he'd be like, I'm already the king of Atlantis.
Yeah,
I'm
already better than you. I'm the best mutant. I'm the king of Atlantis.
When did this happen though? Because it clearly had to have happened before this.
Well, they just decided it. I can't remember who it was. It was an editorial thing. They just decided that they wanted to try to boost Namor's recognition some.
I was certainly not expecting.
He was always different from the rest of the Atlanteans, so they kind of used that as the basis for it.
Yeah, it was an editorial thing.
And it's like, what are you gonna do? It's either that or he's gonna have some connection to the Inhumans. The X-Men's more popular. Go with the
I'd
X-Men.
rather him be connected to the X-Men than the Inhumans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and on the subject
mess.
of the Inhumans, the other thing that kind of goes to something that I was talking about with the deconstruction of the X-Men earlier. Tuner mentioned that it was just after the story that Marvel deprioritized the X-Men and all in stuff because of the fact they couldn't market them as well because they didn't own the movie rights to them.
Oddly enough, one of the follow-ups to this is X-Men versus Inhumans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't nearly as well received because no one cares about the Inhumans.
Yes, and that continued. But the other I'm sorry, you're saying, Cartonicus?
I was just gonna say this, and I've got it up on my screen here. This panel became my favorite panel in the entire story. Number one, right here. Right here on the
thing.
right. Number one, because Namor gets it. And number two, because this was when I said, I don't think it's possible to dislike Ben Grimm.
You can find some spots throughout the
It's
runs
hard.
where you dislike him,
agree.
but they're
It's
few
hard.
and far in between.
Yeah.
It's not. I agree with Cartoonicus. It's not easy. He's very winsome. Partly because he often does things the audience might want to do in moments.
Exactly, right.
Most of the times that you dislike him is early on where they haven't really established the roles yet. And he's like, I could get with Sue. But after that, when he's just like solidly Ben for the rest of the run, it's like, he's Ben.
Yeah.
He's, who dislikes Ben?
There was another panel I think I posted where he's like, X-Men suck eggs, and he's facing down again a demigod, and he's just like, X-Men suck, and it's like, at this point they do. So
yeah, I agree with him.
So the
Listen,
other
he's kind of
one
like God's favorite too. Like he's met him on multiple occasions.
yes, that's also true.
Oh gosh, are we doing the one above all made
You're right.
into an artist?
I think
thing?
Spider-Man met him though, so it might be a tie.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm wondering are you talking about another one of those times when he was portrayed as an artist?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, there's
they're
a
like-
concept. There's a concept within the Marvel universe of the one above all, the god that
Yeah, I
made
know.
all the other gods.
Right, and he's
Well,
also
like-
Artunicus is
Yeah.
mentioning where
As
he's
Jack
actually
Kirby.
drawn as Jack or Stan, and Jack actually redraws Thing to fix him.
Yeah.
Right, but there's
Like that's
lots-
happened, but he's also met Thing in a brief glimpse of like seeing the other side in a near death situation, and he's like talked to him on like a park bench just dressed as an old man before.
I thought that was Spider-Man.
And I'm trying to remember, was it Thing? It might have been Spider-Man. One of them where he appeared as like an old lady because like he can appear as
Subversion.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
because nothing means anything. But the other one of the other things I wanted to talk about too, though, is like I really felt was a super missed opportunity, and it was because one of my great frustrations in this book was T'Challa just sniping and bitching and grousing at Tony again and again and again, and Tony like trying hard to make everybody happy, and nobody's happy with Tony. And like, I don't need Tony to be some sort of hero, but that was boring and
It was funny
irritating.
the first time it happened.
I prefer it to what they would do afterwards.
And well, and the thing is,
After Marvel Now, they would have
Right.
to have T'Challa be like, actually, my super science I'm figuring out, but Tony doesn't figure out. And T'Challa makes a couple more remarks about his society being superior, but then he really just defers to Tony trying to figure this out and snipes at him like whatever.
Right.
I would prefer that to what they do later, which is
Right.
like I said, they just
Well,
have to.
And I'm fine as long as he's not superior Iron Man. Like anything other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, so that didn't. I was like, and there was a couple moments. There was one good moment where when he smacks Tony up because Tony is being a little bit of a narcissist, and he's like, "I'm gonna do a suicide run in my suit," and T'Challa's like, "Shut up." And I kind of appreciated that because Tony would do that,
Yeah,
and Tony needed someone to smack him upside the head
Well,
there. And I
I'll
was
give you
okay with that.
and I'll give you that. But the thing is just like, and Tony was everything he didn't work in this book, right? So then, why the hell is it in the comic? That was the other thing I'm getting at. Is
Oh,
it didn't,
because at the very end is when everything great
Hang on.
comes together.
but it doesn't really come together. It's just like it's all like editorial fiat. It's all like Deus Ex Machina. I don't think it actually comes together.
I
at all.
loved that Tony
just like-
Stark, of all people, found faith.
Yeah.
Like that,
A
I've been
little.
waiting for that.
Yeah, but that's
day
like
I learned about him.
even the idea of his faith thing. It just seemed like forced and put upon, and it didn't actually matter or change anything. I don't feel. And the other side of it is that this is one of those missed opportunities, right? The reason I'm talking about Tony being just some sort of schmuck in this is because I think it's issue 2, they actually introduce a mechanism that has a factor, but that never, ever, ever gets talked about, right?
Which one?
It's referenced, but it's never actually explicated at all. And that is the Iron Fist thing, right? At Kunlun, they go through an ancient scroll. They find that the one time in the ancient past that the Phoenix showed up and was defeated by the carrier of the Iron Fist at the time.
You said issue
And then-
2? That's like issue 9. That's way later.
I think it's pretty early on.
They
Let me
might
go
have
back
The
and look.
Kunlun stuff happens way later. I'll
Well,
look it up.
But that's what I'm getting at is it's referenced in the beginning and then it doesn't show up again for a long time. And then they go there, but like there's never a story. You don't ever have the.
That's like in tie-in.
No, the Kunlun stuff gets expanded on. What exactly are you referencing here?
I'm talking. Okay, let me find it here.
They have a
pretty
whole
sure.
thing where it's like, here's the ancient scroll where
Right,
you
they
know,
go find the ancient scroll and it's pictured, and then, come on.
the tie-ins actually do a lot more with that, but
Right.
we're not.
Yeah, I was
we
gonna
don't
say
go
like
with-
most of it's expanded in the tie-in.
Okay, and maybe it does, but like that's main story stuff.
Sure. Yeah, no, yeah. We'll stick to the main story.
And that should have been like whoever it was should have been like, oh, this is coming. Let me go find Iron Fist and tell him right away about all of this, and That should have been happening like immediately. Oh, also, another one of the dumbest moments I've ever seen in any comic book ever. I gotta share this here quick. I gotta remove you, add this. This made me retarded.
Oh yeah.
What are you talking about?
That's first of all, the Cannonball special wasn't a thing. That was like as big a deal as it became. It's like some sort of like millennial claptrap trying to be relevant that brought it up again.
Okay,
And
that's being like way too
shifting on
negative. It's fun to watch Colossus be thrown by a Magneto. That's a cool thing. Don't poo-poo on the cool thing.
I found it insulting.
How is that insulting?
It's like, listen, tourists, get the hell out of my
Okay, all right. I'm gonna call you out a little bit on this. This is
That's
a
fine.
fun
That's
comic book thing that happens, and you're being a bitter old man if you get that
No,
mad
I
at
think
it.
it's stupid. I don't think it's fun. I didn't find it fun. I found it insulting.
Oh my gosh, come on.
I mean, I found the whole premise
Of all
this book
things, of
insulting to
that
begin
thing,
with.
give me a break.
Yeah, I might even be on Twitless on this one. Like,
Let me give you an example of a
I've got
dumb.
a lot of complaints about this book. That's not one of them.
I will say,
Let me
okay,
give you an example of something that
Here are
I
a
thought
couple
was a
of
little
fun
dumb.
ones that I
I'll give you one. Let me tee one up for you. Let me give you an example of a dumb thing.
So on the other side of it, though, as much as I hate Namor even being in here, this exchange, this was a fun thing to watch.
Sure.
And then you got Luke Cage coming in there.
Could not remember his gosh darn name.
Yeah,
Oh,
Power Man,
Power Man, give me my money. Pay me my money.
Sweet Christmas.
Hero for Hire.
Okay, so I think it's issue 8. Let me
Okay, that's fine.
Point
You
out
go ahead.
the-
If you've got a
let me
thing
point
to
out-
share,
let me point out the actual moment that I think is proper dumb. that they could have fixed,
And,
but they
and
needed
not
to.
just all of Bendis's dialogue in the first issue.
I was gonna say this is Bendis at his best in the sense that he is being clearly restrained by something. I don't know what it. I think it might just be the
was
amount
just
of.
groaning at the dialogue the whole
This
time.
is the least Bendis book I've read.
I have to
because he's not
agree.
even Bendis.
I have
By
to
the way,
agree this
Bendis
is a
only
Bendis
does
book.
every third issue. Like we have Jason
Mhm.
Aaron, you have it might be every fourth. You have Jason Aaron, you have Matt Fraction, you've got Kieran, I think Gillian in there. Like
Yeah, and,
Bendis.
Ed Brubaker too.
Yeah, so like Bendis has the least fingerprints on this, and when he does, I almost feel like you can almost overlook it because I think
Yeah,
it's
but they
either
had to,
it's either
what was it, issue
editorial.
0, I think, was the one that he led off with. And it's like, that's the first
Mhm.
one we read. It was like, I have to start with this.
Yeah.
That's fair.
This
That's
is-
probably the most Bendis of them all. Even then, it's not.
Yeah.
Editorial is clearly reining him in, and like I don't know why, but
Also, how here's the man with the syringe Uzis.
yeah.
Well, how are they sticking in Iron Man? What kind of nonsense?
Yeah.
Could this be that plastic armor that he wore?
Yes, he's
in
not
the-
wearing it. This is in this literal fight. He's not in this literal fight. Fart. In this literal fight, he is wearing because the story Hutch mentioned. He's not wearing metal because Magneto would have one shot him. So it's not actually metal. I think he called it carbon. It's some sort of carbon tubing.
Oh, like a
that he's
carbon
wearing.
fiber.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine and well. Or
I'm just pointing out if we're gonna nitpick, like the
But-
detail. He's not actually wearing
but
metal.
I'm just saying, if he's wearing a carbon fiber armor and it's easily being pierced by like,
He's
medical
got other
systems,
problems.
it's not.
I don't think
working.
it's being pierced. It's just like it's like getting like it's not
It's
going
like
all the way
thumbtacks,
through.
just like
yeah,
sticking
it's
on
getting,
the
he's
edge.
getting he's getting
everywhere.
thumbtacked. Yeah, it's
I just
it's-
kind of find it funny that the guy with syringes went after the guy in armor, and you know that wasn't a mistake. Somebody had to make a conscious decision to do that. They knew
There's
what
plenty
they
of
were doing.
people not
It's
even
kind of-
wearing shirts on the field. He's going straight for the guy wearing armor.
There's some
Right.
interesting Easter eggs here. I actually noticed someone worked in a Mobius comic, I think, in
Like
here.
he knew
but-
exactly what he was doing when he drew that.
All right, I've got the dumb thing. Let me call it the actual dumb thing.
Okay,
It's not
yeah,
that magnetic fastball. It's
which
this.
is- that is also dumb. But
So it is, and they could have fixed this, by the way, but they were moving so fast that they didn't stop to consider the consequences on a couple points. And in this one, if you they smack Namor really hard, and then the Phoenix Force leaves. At least that's the way it appears. And it's like the idea that you could get smacked so hard that the demigod leaves you is not a terrible one unless you do it exactly the way I said it.
Yeah.
So if it had been like, if you get smacked so hard and if you get kind of like knocked down and temporarily defeated or seen to be defeated, the Phoenix no longer considers you worthy and leaves you. I buy that in a second, because the Phoenix is very much this very elitist goddess thing that would be like, you are not worthy. Totally buy that.
But this is like
The
Todd
comic goes.
Ingram smacking the highlights out of her hair.
The comic
Yeah.
goes by. The comic uses video game rules, and I'm fine with video game rules in a video game logic comic, but here they should have done a little better. So they literally they don't even say, oh, this is what happens when he's fallen. They just like, is this what happens when one of us falls? The power leaves and goes to the rest of us, and it's just like you needed to do a little more. You needed to, so it comes across a little dumb. It comes
What does it mean to fall?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was wondering that. I really was. I was like, what do you count as falling?
Oh, you
Yeah.
know what it is?
But
It's still falling in Rebirth, though. Somebody goes down, and then the rest get more powerful.
Sure, but it's video game rules. If you get smacked hard enough, you lose the power up, and that was the part that was dumb, and they needed to explain it a little bit, which they could have. Like I said, within like 2 seconds, you just go,
Well,
you're no longer worthy.
I just read it that way, so like that didn't impact me in the slightest.
Well, that's
So-
funny. I definitely.
I think the
I was like, wait, he's still
blocking
alive?
of the main story, like from an artistic perspective, but also storytelling, just the blocking of the main story is not good, and it's all over the place. They do not use their space very well, right? They'll have pages where they just have 2 to 3 panels on a 2-page spread that nothing is actually happening. Like, it looks cool. It's a good illustration, but nothing's happening in it. And then they'll have like another page where they've got 20 panels on the page, and they barely get a time to even put words in it because there's
So
too many
this
panels on
book
the
was
page.
I attribute that to the release schedule. Like I said, on some of these books,
Yeah.
they were like, in 2 weeks they were getting like there's the Copiel, I think is it Copiel, Adam Kubert, John Romita Jr., and a couple others were just like, they were cycling them in. And when you think about like some of the artists we have in our current epoch, the ones who can't release a book once every 3 months when they were, you know what I mean? The
Right.
fact that they got these guys releasing books on like a bi-weekly basis, like,
Oh,
again,
yeah,
I'm not.
Romita was
I-
penciling one of these books every month while
when I-
also doing other things.
all I'm saying is that I'm not going to defend it, but I'm going to say it's explained by the insane release schedule they were putting on this, and it's something. Some of these books are longer than 24 pages. Like some of them, like
Yeah.
they're hefty. And like so they pumped the page count. There's something very impressive about the production on this particular crossover. They were just churning it out. So it was.
I noticed
When I was
they said
yeah.
in 3 weeks, so they were clearly falling behind even.
That happened once. Yeah,
Yeah.
there were a couple. I was now remember I was buying this, so there were a couple moments where I was like, in 2 weeks, cool. Oh wait, in 3 weeks. Oh wait, in 4 weeks. Like it fluctuated a couple times because these guys clearly, probably fell behind a couple times. But it was very interesting being in the hot seat for this.
Speaking
yeah,
of which, would you apologize for Super Schooled, everybody?
I'll have something. Guys, I've had a kid, and it's taking my brain
the
space.
most understandable.
Speaking of which, Twitless has a kid, everybody.
Yeah, go natalism.
Congrats.
Sorry. But yeah, it's eaten up a little bit of my free time. I'm surprised I'm still here.
It's giving me time to finish my game.
But yes, this is the moment where they do the Kunlun lore on
Right.
Iron
And
Fist
it's issue 6, so it was later than I realized.
Yeah,
probably because I blew through this thing so fast. But he doesn't like actually show up and tell us anything. If it was happening in the bonus books. And here's the other thing: this is an
cool picture, though.
editorial thing, right?
It's a nice picture.
Right? We should be seeing right here on this. We need Iron Fist. Hey, check out AVX.
Oh, you mean the editorial
New
references?
Fire.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
needed to do
And
that.
I miss those.
If
Yeah,
that
I
had
agree.
been there, I wouldn't have. I guess if you say it happened in one of the bonus books, okay, fine. That personally, I think that should be a plot point. It should have been in the main book, and we should have seen beginning of the next issue. That dude, whoever he's, and I can't remember his name,
If
this
Stan
guy-
was still involved at that time, he'd be yelling at them to put all those
God.
in.
Hutch, do you want to weigh in on this?
What am I needing to? I don't
What
know.
did you think?
The
What did you
lack
What
of
did you think about the
understanding of
kung?
Marvel comics?
What did you think about all the kung fu stuff?
Oh, I mean, it just kind of, it's like it's kung fu stuff. I don't know. It just, I don't know. It didn't mean anything to me. I didn't really know what Iron Fist does, and they say he's got Iron Fist power, and I'm like,
Oh, I
what
still
is that? I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
So-
a whole can of worms.
that is a
Yeah.
whole can of worms. And once again, that's something that should have been explained through the
Tons
course
of this needed to be explained.
Especially with how inconsistent Iron Fist is. Like, there are some runs where like Iron Fist probably would have been able to handle this problem himself, and then there's ones where it's like, why is he even here on the stage at all?
By the way, who is this? Is this the ancient one? Or is this
No,
something else? Okay.
that's a Doctor Strange thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
was
no
wondering
idea
if
what
they were
eyeballs in the palm there. I have no idea what any of this stuff means.
That's okay. You don't
Yeah.
need it.
you don't really need the
You don't
story,
need it.
but
Yeah.
like
Can I want to share one more thing, which is another interesting thing about the. I'm not going to go too much more into the tie-ins, but I wanted to explain at least what was fun to. There was something interesting that came up that I've always wanted to talk about to people. So I would love to take a second to mention it. Where is my? Oh, I need to stop screen and reshare. So let me share. Issue 2 really fast, which is one of my favorite issues in the whole thing. It's the first big fight. It's big and bombastic and kind of fun. But because this book is being drawn by all these different people, let me share this.
sometimes hope is 12 and sometimes hope is 17.
Oh, that's just
true.
Greg Land. That's Greg Land.
It was several people, Drew. were different.
Land does it the worst. I'll show you in a second. Land makes her look like she's 24.
Yeah, I had no idea what age she's supposed to be.
She's supposed to be like a teen. So what's interesting is from a literary let's change tack for just a second, if you don't mind. From a literary criticism perspective, this book was very interesting to me because of subjectivity. So this scene shows the helicarrier approaching Utopia, and you can see how it's designed. You can see it's got those turbo fan looking things, right? This is being drawn by John Romita Jr. And then if I scroll a little bit and find a picture of Hope, which we just talked about, there's Hope. She looks very much like, when you see her next to Emma, it's like Emma's a mature woman and this girl's clearly a teenager. There's her teenage friends. All right, so let me then share one more thing, and this is from one of the tie-ins. So it's the same moment in the narrative, but it's being told in a tie-in book through the lens of a different artist. So if you don't mind pulling that up for me. Okay, same helicarrier, same moment, and because it's being
Completely
drawn by
different design.
completely different, it's got propellers. And Utopia looks different as well. And then, as we were just talking about Hope Summers, let me find the panel that really sells Hope Summers. Okay, so Hope Summers looks, there we go. So that's how because Greg Land is always photo referencing. Greg Land clearly photo references like a bikini swimsuit model who is much older than that teenager right there. And so from one side, it's like, oh, inconsistency or whatever. I personally was always fascinated, like I said, for this literary concept of subjectivity, which is the idea of different, how the story changes depending on who's telling it, and how that changes our understanding of a story. If a story has multiple narrators, then that means that we don't necessarily have one authorial understanding of said story. We kind of have to piece it together ourselves.
I do that a lot.
It creates new avenues for understanding. And so I was always fascinated by this idea that there's multiple people retelling the fight at Utopia. And so, like, in one version, the helicarrier has propellers, and the other one it doesn't. And if you think about like multiple witnesses at a big event, you'd get very different stories. People would say it was flying, it was falling, it was it had this many engines.
It's why there's 4 gospels.
Yeah. So you have so
Yeah.
to see this happen in a superhero comic that was happening so very rapidly, and to see how Hope Summers is being portrayed as either in some perspectives she's seen as a much younger woman, but maybe depending on who's seeing her, maybe she looks at much older, much more sexually virile. The idea of that subjectivity changing how you view a story, and in comics this becomes even more interesting because we get the visual side. It's not just being read to us in text. We're getting different visual depictions of the world. And in Avengers versus X-Men, we're getting the same event, sometimes being told to us multiple times. I've always found that to be a fascinating thing to think about. I've never known what to do about that from an academic standpoint, like what paper I can write about it. But I've this for years, for like I think 13 years or so, I've always loved thinking about this difference of subjectivity and perspective on the same events and the same people inside those events. What do you guys make of that? Because I don't know, that just tickles my brain.
Well, it's doing it intentionally is something. Here it just feels like laziness, and I'm not afraid to say so.
Well, it's Greg Land. Nobody is afraid to call him lazy.
Well,
No,
it's not everybody. It's everybody that's involved
like
in this
Greg.
project.
Well, I don't know if I want to call it
consistency with the
laziness.
designed by anyone.
Right. I think the bigger problem is, as Twitless was bringing up, the corporate schedule.
Yeah.
These were probably written, many of them in advance before anybody touched them, and they probably had people already drawing them at the same time before they came out.
I don't care if it's intentional or not.
Yeah.
In fact, it doesn't matter for the interpretation of
course
subjectivity. It doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that regardless of the mistake or not, if it is a mistake or not, it is the subjectivity has now been created. The avenue to interpret the story in this vein is now presented to us. I find that to be, just like I said, intellectually tickling. Like I said, regardless of whether it's intentionally planned or not. Like I said, I don't think it was
you have to
intentionally
read
planned.
the story that way, right? Like it doesn't matter. That's what's presented to you. So you have to read it that way.
It seems like bad editing.
There's multiple moments that do this, and I think that's what makes this, because like some of them are intentional. The Cyclops one, where it's like this is what Cyclops and Emma are experiencing. They were having a tea party while they're fighting at the same time, is in fact intentional. So the subjectivity on those events is in fact planned. This one may not be, but the window into scenes like this through that vein is something I find to be personally interesting. And if other people don't find it interesting, that's fine. I just, like I said, I've always found that to be just fascinating to think about, because it opens up avenues to look at other comics in similar ways, and be like, who is telling the story, who's seeing the story, and do we completely change our visual perspective on what these stories are? And I know other comics do things with this, but it's
well, actually, let me come back to this idea that you're putting out there. Outside of this particular story, because I didn't read any of the other stuff, so I can't really speak on that. But one of the challenges that you gave me when we read The Long Halloween, right? Mm-hmm. Because of how much I hate that book, and I still don't like it. But
you mean Hush?
I mean Long Halloween.
Long Halloween. Okay.
Yeah, there's a particular challenge you gave me with The Long Halloween.
Yeah, if I remember,
right?
Hush made you appreciate The Long Halloween, right?
No. Well, sort of. After our conversation, I actually started rethinking about, because when I came back to The Long Halloween, I decided I just hated it. I couldn't stand it.
Okay.
But one of the things you said in our conversation, you said, you have to remember that this isn't everything that Batman is doing in this year 2, year 3 period of time. There's canonically lots of other cases that are going on, and maybe things are just slipping through the cracks. You're seeing a weakness in his character or in his aspect, but maybe this is something else going on. So I went back and I've gone back and reread some of the other adjacent stories that are happening at that same time. Mm-hmm. Went back and looked at the came out later on, but it was definitely leaned on Long Halloween, the Two-Face Year One, and some other things that are occupying the same space. And I got to thinking that, in that context, if you look at Long Halloween as a series of moments extruded from their, day-to-day context, is it terrible? Right? Is it lore breaking in that context? And I have to say no, but that is that concept of, because you're looking at, if you're reading these other things, you're seeing other, because they're interreferencing. There's intertextuality that's going on between these different writers that are referring to Long Halloween, or referring to Year One, or referring to Legends of the Dark Knight, or referring to the original stories, right? That was going on. There was a lot of this intertextuality that was happening, and if you look at it in that way, Long Halloween holds up better than it does in Exclusion, I think.
Okay.
And so, but part of the reason it does that is this is necessarily this subjectivity that you're talking about, and that is the function of that, right? Is seeing that within this greater context. And so there is definitely, when you look at the intertextuality of this shared universe idea, that does come up. And so while I don't necessarily find it interesting in Avengers versus X-Men, I can see how that is interesting as a meme, as an artifact of the periodical comic storytelling.
Yeah, it definitely highlighted it for me. No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's that was the last thing I kind of think I wanted to. I think
Okay.
I think it's the last thing I wanted to mention.
Okay. So, final thoughts. We're over 2 hours now.
I can't believe we talked 2 hours about something I just did not enjoy reading at all. When I wasn't lost, I was bored. I just don't, like you said, this is all, I really want to see this Marvel character fight that Marvel character. And it's like, I don't even know who these people are. And they seem to fight for no reason whatsoever. And, there was a part where the Avengers, they have Wolverine on the Avengers now and not with the X-Men. But Wolverine is the founder of the school now instead of Xavier. It's Jean Grey's School for Mutants or whatever it's
kind
called.
of a different school.
Oh, it's a different school.
Kind of.
But it has Cerebro in the basement.
Yes.
Well, it's like a refounding.
It's the mutant school. It's just okay. So
it's blown up a few times. They've had to rebuild it.
Right, I get that. But okay, so there's somebody who can use Cerebro, and they ask her for, hey, do you know where these things might be? And she says, yes, there's actually 5 locations. I can't tell which one is her. I'm looking for Hope. I don't know where Hope is. I see 5 locations where Hope might be. And this is like, for one moment, I was like actually interested in this because this is like an old Bronze Age Justice League. It's like, okay, everybody splits up. And now chapter 3 is, Red Tornado and Batman and Hawkman go to Easter Island. And chapter 4 is Black Canary, Zatanna, and Elongated Man. They have to go to Mount Rushmore, But it was interesting. For just a second, I thought they were going to do that. No, they didn't. But the funny thing is, they then have like a number of pages of the two teams fighting, and I'm like, well, I thought the whole point, because it turns out that this is they're turning to a mutant, and the mutant is like betraying them. She's saying, yeah, there's 5 spots, and then she says, okay, I told them there's 5 places they would be, and that's like, why are there X-Men at each of these locations fighting them? I thought the whole point was to send them off on 5 wild goose chases. Ooh. And it's like, but then there's actually people to fight there.
Hope sent them on the goose chase.
Right.
She went to the tech store, and because she was raised by cable, and she makes a scramble thing that puts her location in 5 spots. So both the X-Men and the Avengers are showing up at each of the 5, hoping to find her there.
Okay. See, I didn't understand that at all. I figured it was just a mutant was backstabbing the guys because it's like
there is that scene where Rachel Summers who is Rachel is Jean and Scott's daughter from an alternate future, who's also sort of kind of Cable's foster mother.
Oh,
She
Uh-huh.
raised her brother as an infant, and then
That's
so
right.
she-
That's right.
so she's sort of
Cyclops'
grandmother
Cable's dad.
and sort of Hope's aunt, and sort of Hope's sister.
Okay, so when you were giving that whole story about Cyclops and raising his son in the future, that's Cable.
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot that. We even talked about it in the chat. And I still forgot that.
It's totally fine. The future stuff
Yeah.
is such a mess. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
defend.
and then you mentioned how many times Jean Grey has been brought back, and I was like, just leave her dead. I mean, this was like the pivotal story that even I, as a non-Marvel reader, know about. That she was the Phoenix Gambit is this whole thing where she's going to get godlike power and she kills herself. That's all I know because it was summarized in news articles about this. That's how big the event was.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's like, just leave her dead like they did for Barry Allen and Jason Todd, which, of course, is also not true as of 2011. They brought back both of them around the late 2000s. It's like,
I wish they hadn't killed her again. I liked her
Mhm.
coming back because I've read some of her appearances in X Factor where she's trying to rebuild her relationship with Scott. And I always liked Jean, so
Mhm.
I'm like I'm fine with. I just wish they wouldn't keep killing her and bringing her back because it gets a little
Especially
silly
because the
after
last time they brought her back was the worst. The most
Hmm.
recent one.
Mhm.
Which one?
I
Which
thought
one
she
is
had been
that?
gone for
You
like
know,
a
little
time.
teenage Jean. That,
Oh,
like,
okay. No,
ruined
actually,
everything.
no. She went home. Real Jean's back.
Oh, okay. I
yeah,
realized.
they
I
sent- they
stopped
sent-
following after that point.
The five went. Yeah, the one who made Bobby gay. Yeah.
Yeah,
She went.
that one.
They sent her home.
Yeah, except that like that is also sort of real Jean, and then real Jean is also resurrected Jean. You've got a real Theos's boat or Odysseus's boat thing going on here, where
Ship-
Theseus's boat.
Theseus'
Yeah.
ship.
Theseus.
Theseus, there you
Yep.
go.
No, they sent the original X-Men home. Thank heavens, there was enough continuity kerfuffle.
It was all terrible, all of it.
Um,
Okay. But anyway, yeah. So Hutch, as a whole, you did not. Was there any particular moments that you did find engaging at all?
I think I just told you the one that I thought was kind of cool, and it's only because it reminded me of the Justice League.
that would've
I was hoping for something better on the next
If
page.
it would have been like,
was like,
a
"Ah, shoot."
Fetch Quest kind of adventure comic that had had fights punctuating the like clue finding, that would have been
Uh-huh.
so much more interesting.
Yeah.
It's
And
kind of what I
especially, like-
thought I was going to get when I was buying this originally.
Well, I mean, think about it, like, so you got the whole Kunlun thing that's in the background and everything. What wouldn't have been great if she sussed it out on her own and found a way to get there and went to like before the master to get the whole thing? That would have been way more interesting.
I had
Anyway.
a thought though when they split up into 5 and I forget the 5 destinations are, but they're like entire cities, right? One is Wakanda, one is I forget. They go to
There are
5 different
major
locations that are
locations in
favorite,
Marvel.
5 famous Marvel locations, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I've never thought about it before, but it's like why do the superheroes always find each other? It's like, we're going to go to London. Okay, well, London's a big city. You could be, like 20 blocks apart and have no idea that the other guys are there. Why do they always show up at the same part of a massive city? Wakanda is a country. It's like, why don't they ever, like, they're in one city in Wakanda and the other guys are in
Isn't
another
there
city
really
in
only like one major city in Wakanda though?
It's like a
One of
city
those-
state, but it's
Yeah.
still not small.
Still, it's huge. I mean, why do they always like, oh, go to Wakanda, and then they go to Wakanda, and the other guys went to Wakanda, and they run into each other like they're on the same, plot of land. I don't get it.
It's because there's only one tour guide in all of Wakanda, so they all end up on the same tour.
Yeah.
It's
We go
video
to-
games again.
Yeah. That was always fun. And they go to Latveria, which is an entire country, and they happen to find each other instantly there.
Mhm.
It's like there's
A country made almost entirely of mountainside, so it's like you could easily just get lost in the mountains and somehow they all still find each other.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
It
It's
would just be. I would just love to have seen, just once on those old, Justice Leagues where they all split up and go somewhere that they go and they're like, oh, Weather Wizard was here 2 hours ago. It's like, He got the thing and left. Why did you think you'd be here at the exact same time as him?
I think he even got lunch in between too. Like he stopped at that hot dog stand down the street and
just once, you know.
yeah.
Metal. You said
Yes.
you went in hoping that you would not hate it as much as you did in 2012.
Yeah. Okay, so even when I say hate in 2012, I didn't start really hating it till the end the first time that I read it. Like I think I was originally kind of jiving with it for like the first 7 issues, but it was like a downhill slope. I went back reading this with like a very open mind, not even remembering exactly what was all in it, especially around the tail end. And I came back hating it more than the first time. And I think maybe one of the reasons I didn't hate it as much the first time too is I wasn't as knowledgeable on everything that led up to it the first time. So I was kind of like reading that, not quite from Hutch's perspective, because I read a whole like backlog of old classic Marvel stuff before that. But like specifically to the things leading up, I was in and out. Like I read some Civil War. I read some of this, some of that, mostly on like pirate sites at the time because I couldn't like afford to buy comics. So this was like one of the first full runs of something in Marvel that I read. And even then, I don't think I can say full because there's definitely some tie-in things I didn't read the first time. And I didn't totally hate it back then. I think I totally hate it now, though.
Interesting.
Okay, fair. I'm going to give you guys, Cartoonicus and Twitless, the chance to close this out with this. So I'm going to go ahead and say my piece right now.
All right.
I was super underwhelmed when I wasn't being irritated. That doesn't mean that there wasn't like some fun moments in it. I would be lying if I wasn't saying there were things like as much as the magnetic fastball special just hurt me deeply inside. There was a lot of fun moments that were in it. My cliche statement about things is I simply feel that the whole is less than the sum of its parts. I didn't even like all of the parts. But there definitely was some fun things in it. I am maddeningly curious. Cartoonicus said something in the chat earlier today, and I am going to give you the floor to say your piece. And I have said enough negative things today. I'm not even going to argue with you on stream. So I want you to explain to me why your statement, like how you feel the statement was. You said that you feel like this was Civil War done right.
In a way, yeah.
What on earth are you talking about?
So if we go back to the actual Civil War stream, there was something that I brought up, a line from Linkara that I thought put it perfectly. The problem with Civil War was this: a Civil War should be both sides are right and both sides are wrong. The way they actually did Civil War was both sides are wrong and I hate them. Right? In at least the first half of this comic, I felt it was much more well done in terms of both sides are right and both sides are wrong. I don't necessarily agree that every character had proper motivation or that it made sense that they would be taking the side they did. But when arguments were presented, I do feel like I was able to see both sides of the argument. It didn't make sense that Captain America would just show up with an entire army and a helicopter rather than just, what you could have just come to me, man, right? Like, I felt that even at Scott's worst, you could understand what he wanted and why he wanted it. And because of that, I could actually follow along rather than just be completely frustrated with every single thing anybody ever did. The interesting thing to me at the end is because you guys were going back and forth about, is this, are we seeing the coming destruction, of the Marvel Universe and all? What I noticed was simply that, for a book that uses the Phoenix, and before reading all of this, I had no idea that the Phoenix was death and rebirth. I just thought it was some destructive monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get to the end, and surprisingly, the Phoenix actually comes through, like I was saying, right? What I noticed that was, it seems like the entire point of this, and this often happens with event comics, right? They use crossover events to reset the multiverse, or whatever it is. They like to clean up universes and that. It seemed like the whole idea was somebody felt that House of M was a mistake, and that everything had happened since House of M was a mistake, and they were trying to undo it. And really, that's the deepest I got. So I'm not finding myself frustrated, based on like how male and female characters are portrayed. Anything. I really just saw this as, okay, they definitely rebooted the universe again. Decide for yourself if that reboot is for a good or bad thing. Should there be more mutants? Should there be less? I don't really care. But while my issue is really the opposite of Metals, the first couple issues were really hard to read, and I was really feeling that Marvel method effect happening. The more it went on, the more I was able to get into the both sides are right, both sides are wrong, and I could appreciate that. And then once the Phoenix took them over, it became a completely different comic, right? Now it was no longer Avengers versus X-Men. It was Avengers versus the Phoenix, basically.
Right.
But honestly, from there, it just got more engaging. I actually found myself just, even if it's just pure entertainment for a superhero comic, fighting stuff. My favorite issue by far was easily this one with Spider-Man. I just found myself surprisingly appreciating what I was reading, and it was fun, and I didn't expect that from this. I thought it was going to be a slog. I remembered trying to read it way back when, in 2012 or whatever, and having that problem. And I was like, okay, here we go. Gulp, and somehow it kind of just made me like it in the end.
Okay. Well, I don't think I can even argue with you on that anyway. I mean, I don't agree, but
you promised you would.
Solid point.
Yeah, you promised you would.
No, if you want the best version of Civil War done right, I already said this in the chat. You got to play Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. It kind of distills the entire story down to maybe what it should have been, but you also get to spend a lot of time with each individual character in between the stages, and they get to tell you like what their motivation is, why they're on that side, why they switch sides.
Well, video games
it's
gonna
a
let
much
you have
better
that.
way. Yeah, because you
Yeah,
just
like
have all this time to explore.
all this time to have dialogue trees. So I also agreed with the Civil War. I think I was one of the ones who actually pushed that comment too. Let me just say that I've always felt like this crossover was a mixed bag. I thought it was significant because of where it's situated in history. I've already belabored that point.
Right.
But when it comes to just being a comic, it's a mixed bag for me. But it's a mixed bag where I like I said, I like both stories. I wish they had structured it so that both stories were separate and fleshed out more. And I feel like a lot of the problems get fixed if they had done that. I love my Super Smash Brothers. I wanted so many more of the action figures smacking each other, and I felt like they cheated me on that, even with the fight book. And I was like, I want more of the action figure smacking, because I want to see. Superheroes have so many cool powers, and half of the fun is watching them use them against each other or against a supervillain. And this book said, we're going to face each other in new ways. And I said, by golly, Avengers versus X-Men, what it says on the tin, I'm here, I'll pay you money for it. And they said, hey, for 5 issues, we'll tease you with that, but we actually really want to tell this grand Phoenix story. On a reread, when I first read it, I didn't like the Phoenix story that much, because I really was here for the Super Smash Brothers, and I was like, you cheated me out of more of my Super Smash Brothers. When I read it a second time, like I said, I felt my pulse quicken when I read the Avengers being hunted, and I like Cartoonicus said, I really liked that, but I liked it in the sense that I was like, I want this to be a separate like follow up to the first thing that I showed up for when I want my Super Smash Brothers, which is what you promised with a title as blatant as Avengers versus X-Men. I'm expecting Street Fighter versus X-Men or Marvel versus Capcom. You know
Yeah,
what
that's
I mean?
what I was expecting
Yeah,
too.
right.
And it's like, that's
So-
not what I got at all, really.
Right.
The thing is, I have learned after enough so-and-so versus so-and-so. Versus are always
Well,
disappointing
let me
in that area, right?
let me. I don't know if I agree with that, but let me just finish.
Oh,
I
man.
actually I think there's a seed for both of these things to happen, but because they crammed both of them in at the same time, it ends up being
Yeah.
too much and not enough at
This
the
should have been
same
like 30
time.
issues.
It should have been, but the difference between part 1 and part 2 should have been considerably different, in my opinion, to deliver on what I wanted to see. And if
Well-
they'd spent more time on it, they probably would have not made some of the goofy mistakes that
Yeah,
we
so here's the
cringe
funny
at
thing
here
about
and
that
there.
is that there were 12 issues, right? But they were doing them
Yeah.
every 2 weeks, roughly. So
Sure.
it still only took 6 months, right?
About 7, I think 7 total. Yeah.
How would you feel if they had been doing it every 2 weeks and gone a full year? Do you think they would have had enough space and time to actually flesh everything out properly?
I can't say for certain. Like that's like woulda, coulda,
That
shoulda
would have been
moment.
like a runaway
but-
train.
But I wish they'd tried, because what I did get was a little bit of what I wanted, but it was rushed. And it was just like I said, I just got glimpses of like some really cool fight scenes. Because like, for example, I've always thought that fights between a character like Colossus and characters like Thing or Spider-Man are very interesting because they have similar powers but not entirely the same. And you're like always like, oh, I wonder who has the edge in an actual fight. Maybe they knew different techniques.
Yeah, it's
And
like watching Colossus and Juggernaut fight in Deadpool 2, right? Like it's one that you've always want to see happen.
Yeah, I'm less interested. Juggernaut for me because you need a team to fight him. Like, so I'm more interested in the ones where their power levels are a little more approachable. But without, I don't want to belabor the point anymore. Like I said, to me, it's always been a mixed bag. On the whole, reading it a second time, I liked it, but I was always left being like, I wanted more from both sides of the story, and I wanted less of them in a way. It was weird. It's weird.
Okay, I want to.
So that's my.
In hearing your thing, something came to my mind.
Uh-huh.
I know I said I was done complaining,
Okay.
but I have a
I should have
proposition.
placed a bet.
I have a proposition
Okay.
that I want to see if you can shoot down on this.
Okay.
And then I have one more thing I want you to do after I'm done with
Okay.
this.
All right. All right.
This. So, am I seeing? Because I believe that I am seeing. You said one of the things that people want to see is to see heroes fight each other or to see heroes fight villains,
Yes.
right? This is the zenith of 10 years of heroes fighting heroes in the Marvel Universe. 10 solid years of virtually just heroes fighting heroes through the different events. Then the next Marvel Now comes up, and they can't fight heroes, so they started fighting the readers. They can't fight villains, they can't fight heroes, but they're fighting the readers.
Huh.
And I think this is another example of that frog boiling that I keep talking about. That moves us into that Marvel Now. We're fighting the readers.
Now,
I definitely think Marvel
here's
now
the
is fighting the readers. I do agree with that. So what was the thing you wanted to ask me to do though?
I want you. Okay, after that, I want you to consider, or I want you to see if you can, to the people that are still listening there, tell them, should they read this comic? And if so, why?
And how?
Yes, I definitely think they should read this comic. I think it is, but I'm going to put certain caveats on it. I think if you are new, and again, I'm really glad, Hutch, thank you very much for guinea pigging this for us, because this is, I think, this helps answer. If you're not a big Marvel reader, I think you'll be lost. unless you are very open to being. Some readers like I was kind of lost for a chunk of this, and I enjoyed that. But if you do not enjoy that, you're gonna hate it.
I liked it more when I was lost.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, but some readers, that's not their cup of tea. I completely respect that. So it was very helpful to have Hutch be, like I said, the guinea pig who was going to be really lost because you're a DC guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I do recommend this. I recommend it to people who, like me, wanted to see the superheroes fight. If you don't like watching superheroes fight, again, like the pitch is not gonna, it falls flat on its face, because that's what this is, blatantly. I would say the Phoenix storyline is okay. Like I say, it was a thriller, kind of like pulse pounding thriller in some places, which I enjoyed. I would not recommend it to people who are major sticklers for some continuity points. The big continuity heads are probably really going to cringe at some of the liberties they had to take to make the story get off the ground in the first place.
Which is why I really never expected that Reese would like this in the first place.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So, but like I said, there's different types of readers, and so like I said, it's very important to identify like who is going to like this and who's going to be like, oh, pain. So like I said, I would recommend it to certain readers and definitely not to others. So.
I can't imagine getting through this if I didn't have the four of you answering my questions. About
okay, so we also recommend
guy?
you have a support group when reading this.
Yeah, I mean, they never explain who Hope is, why she's the Messiah, where she came from, what Scarlet Witch did. You're supposed to know that because it's like you're completely at a loss. And then they'll explain, the Phoenix is coming. It's like, well, thank you, but I don't get the rest of it.
That's great. What does that mean?
And
there should have been a bigger notice, like a huge countdown at the beginning of the book, like the Phoenix is coming in 5 issues or something like that. Just like right there at the beginning in your face.
That was an interesting thing, actually. Sorry to interrupt, but this is
okay.
This an interesting way that this applies to me because, with a few exceptions since then, I have read about as much Marvel as you have. So at the difference for me, the reason I was able to stomach this, I guess, is because going back to, 2006, at least, probably, I had Twitless to teach me just how insane the Marvel Universe was. How many ridiculous retcons and reinventions and event comics had come and gone. I even got to see like all these different memes and videos on YouTube back in the days when they were doing flash animation to really illustrate it and drive down the points in comedic form. So when I finally got around to it, I was kind of ready for this, even if I'd never actually experienced any of it.
Yeah. I gotta say, I've always been puzzled as to all the people who don't like that Disney doesn't have access to the mutants, to the point that they bought a studio just to have the rights to the X-Men. It's like the Marvel Universe almost does not jibe with the X-Men as far as
I
at least
completely agree with you.
Yeah,
it's like just have them as a separate comic.
I don't get how people are like, oh, the Thing, you were affected by radiation, we love you. It's like, you are just a natural mutation, we hate you. It's like, it doesn't make sense. And then I came to it from watching the only exposure for me has been watching the movies at the X-Men. And it's like the first one, it's not so bad. I mean, they try to turn everybody into mutants. Okay. And that's, it's an interesting threat. The second one
didn't make any sense.
No, the second one had one mutant sneak into the White House to kill the president and would have gotten away with it. Just one mutant can kill the president of the United States. And when I watched the first one, that senator is going, we've got mutants here who can run through walls. How are we supposed to protect their money in our vaults from them? And I'm like, this guy's making total sense. And I talked to Marvel fans, and they're like, that guy's evil. And I'm like, he's not said anything wrong. What's this guy's a bad guy in the comic books?
If I may, Claremont understood the nuance there, and like I said, that character speaks, and then the other character's answer is, we understand that your fears have some grounding. We have our role is to essentially be missionaries.
Yeah, he's a pretty important character in the comic, so they didn't like
Senator
pull somebody
Kelly
out of nowhere.
Yeah, Senator Kelly.
Well, and part of the deal too is that
I'm like, I just think he makes total sense. And then the third one, as you point out, the third one it's getting really crazy with what they can do, that they can attack San Francisco. And then when they get into the other ones, where one mutant takes all of the nukes and wants to turn them against the rest of the world. And it's like, geez, this is, I can understand not liking mutants going all the way back to the 1960s. And then the next one, I forget what they are in order, but it's like you have the one who lifts a stadium and brings it down, and the president's there. They could kill the president there if they wanted to. The next one, isn't that the one where the guy completely starts destroying cities with his mind?
You're talking about Apocalypse?
Apocalypse guy, yeah. It's like,
even early on, right?
I totally understand why people hate mutants, because just one of them.
You could use Cerebros to kill anybody you wanted at a distance. Like if they just wanted to take out the president, they could. Now those are the good guys, but other people have sometimes gotten access to Cerebros, or the whole plot of the second one, where we could just trick Professor X into killing other people.
Right.
So they've always been dangerous.
But of course, as you've said, you can apply this to the superheroes as well, right? It's
true, but I'm just saying, as
look
far
at the
as
Hulk
this
here,
whole...
he can just wreck a continent in an afternoon.
Yeah, but this whole, it's equivalent of racism, and everybody is so racist. And it's like, or nowadays they equate them to gays, and it's like, gays aren't going to destroy the world with their mind.
Well,
they might force you to make a cake for them. They might force you to bake a cake for them, but they won't destroy the planet.
Not physically, anyway.
I'm just saying that's
yeah, it's just funny.
It's not an equivalent.
Yeah, when you compare, Will and Grace to,
I wasn't trying to talk about gays. I was just talking about the fact that
it's just funny.
It's not it's not equivalent to race. It doesn't make you can't just say, "Oh, look at bigotry. Isn't bigotry bad?" And it's like, bigotry makes total sense if this is what, this if this is what they're against. This is what, this could destroy the planet. I understand people being afraid of this.
Yeah. X-Men is always, gets used as somebody's soapbox because they can just apply whoever they want to them. Yep. If you take it back to the first time that they started focusing on this idea of them being feared, it does make sense that X-Men is kind of addressing what no other part of any other part of a superhero universe has ever really addressed, and that is the downsides of having, superheroes or superhumans on every street corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, well, guys, that's it for me. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's fine, man. Absolutely, it's great. That's great stuff. But I think we'll call that the show tonight, since it's 2.5 hours, man. Holy crow! I didn't think we had another 30 minutes left in this thing after that.
This was a 13-issue series. I was surprised we didn't chunk it up into 3 issues at a time.
So was I.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. I couldn't have handled. I couldn't have.
I think you would have got one episode out of me, and I'd be gone for the rest.
Yeah,
of it.
Me too.
I think we did just fine. Yeah.
I think it was great. Yeah. So
this was the perfect way to handle it.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for coming along to the panel, and to you guys out there, if you guys watched it and were interested, hope you guys enjoyed that. Ethereal says he is big sad. If you're sad because the show is over, you can go back and watch the replay. It'll be there.
We'll be back soon.
We'll be back soon. Next week, we are doing something a little bit different. I am having some of the guys from the Mythoverse Comics coming on to talk about they are doing a Christmas comic that they are crowdfunding right now. and we're going to be talking to them about why they picked Christmas this year. And we're doing that just before Halloween, so that's kind of fun. And then after that, I do not know for sure what we're going to do. Hopefully it'll be fun. So, Cartoonicus, I believe, has something for us. And I'm going to mute myself to try to get this loaded up here as a going away. For everybody who has to take off, feel free that you do, because I know, Twitless, you said, I'm sorry, you said you had things you had to do. But
Yeah, try to sleep.
Yeah.
I have to go shopping, so I'm going to dip as soon as this video is over.
Shopping, wow. What time zone are you in?
Pacific right now, technically, because Arizona doesn't do the daylight savings thing.
Okay, because it's 11 o'clock for me. I was like,
No, it's about to turn 9.
Okay.
See, whatever the time for you guys, it's always later for Twitless and I.
Yeah.
I'm just chatting here to fill time until you're ready to play whatever you're going to play. So don't mind me. I mean, if it's ready to go, say so.
This is just a video I was going to submit to Reese in case he wanted
he muted himself.
Oh, Matt's muted, and he forgot he's muted. He's talking to us.
Reese, you're muted.
You're muted. Yeah, we can't hear you, Matt.
He's saying that's fine.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, he's talking to himself.
I think he's talking to us, but
I see Kagome.
I think we should do a show about Justice League 200. One of my favorite comic books ever. It's actually the first comic book I ever bought.
Sounds good.
And since it predates several of your births, I think it'd be interesting to get your opinion on it, because it was amazing that the first book I got to buy is just one of the most amazing issues ever. So
here we go.
Oh,
what is this?
Okay.
I see Kagome.
Oh wait, we're good? We have the audio?
Okay.
I am a god, you.
Sit down! Sit, boy!
I asked you, I begged you, and now I'm begging you. Stop this madness! This is Sparta! Puny god.
Oh my gosh.
That's a show.
Yep.
Good night, folks.
Good night, folks.
That Freedom Tunes there is funny. Watch it.
Oh, I'll have to. Later.
Bye.
You everybody out there, go read some comics, and I mean it. Okay, have a good week.